All right, well, welcome back to the Campagnolo GFNY World Championships. I'm Gabe Lloyd.
And I'm Dan Schmaltz.
We are in the middle of a really exciting race day so far. Your lead breakaway of 5 riders, I believe, is currently riding up the Rockland Lake climb, a decisive moment before we hit the Bear Mountain rated climb of the day.
Yes, and to just tell you the tale of the race so far, Bill Ash went on River Road basically at the beginning of the race, was away, had a minute by himself, got up away from the ranger station climb, was still ahead, and then crashed, and then he's basically out of the race. He didn't crash and injure himself, he crashed and was caught back by the pack, so that's a real heartbreaking way to start the day. Bill Ash is out. Bill Ash is like the local Thomas DeHent. He basically gets out there, hammers, and if he's going to win by himself.
Yeah.
So, right. Too bad, Bill. Sorry about that.
Sorry, Bill. The luck was not with you again this year. You're tacking off the line at the George Washington Bridge, where 5,000 athletes from 95 different countries started today. Bill Ash was the first rider off that bridge. He tried to hold it for as long as he could, and it was just not in his favor today. But a lot of riders are having a good day, namely one of them, a French rider, number 1,213, Cedric Haas, is in the break right now. A phenomenal story, Dan. Yes. He started literally in a timed gap behind his breakaway compatriots. He is now riding with them. You know, we're viewing him as an outside favorite at this point.
It could be. We have no idea what Cedric is capable of. He wasn't necessarily somebody we knew about beforehand, but now we know that he's able to start back about 1,000 places behind everyone else, basically elbow his way through a bunch of New Yorkers and Colombians and people from all over the world and get up to the front break. So he's not unstrong, but we have to find out whether he's able to hang with the group that he's with right now. The group has 2 New York City teams represented, the Weather Channel with Conrad Ratzman and Foundation with Ralph Pallmeyer. So these 2 might not be the plan A for both of those teams, but they're at the front. You can't argue with where they're at. So their teams are not going to be chasing them. The teams that missed out are going to be Rockstar Games. We're not have Ricardo Pachetta from last year. Last year's winner is not here. So he's probably in the chase group. We can't tell. We don't have a camera on that chase group. So we'll be finding out where everyone else is at and who's doing the work to bring this back.
Yeah, we are dropping a camera back to the peloton right now, or back to at least what we think is a chase group. We've only had cameras on our breakaway so far today, but because we have a full closed course for the Campagnolo GFNY, we are able to bring our motorcycles back to the peloton without interfering with any traffic. This event is phenomenal because we block off some of the busiest roads in New York City and surrounding area to provide what it feels like to be a pro for a day here in New York City.
They closed the bridge.
They closed the George Washington Bridge.
You don't close the bridge in New York City.
No.
No, that never happens.
No. It was a pretty amazing sight to see 5,000 athletes from around the world corralled at the starting line in the George Washington Bridge. So it looks like on our camera feed that we are looking at here, we're circling back around. We have a fairly large peloton chasing 6 riders.
Yes.
So Dan, let's talk about the pack dynamics of what could be occurring here. We have a lot of riders. They can draft off of each other. They can use each other for their own benefit by not doing as much work as the 6 riders away from the field.
If I had to guess, I would think that back in the pack they're sharpening their knives. They're trying to figure out what's going on at the front. They're maybe going to do the old fly, fry, and die. Let them go out there, see what happens, see if they come back. And if not, once they get to Bear Mountain, things are going to get serious.
Absolutely. That is a great way of stating that sentiment right now in the peloton. They are biding their time, hoping that the climbs that are yet to come will whittle down the legs in front of them in the breakaway group, thereby allowing them to become factors in this race. But we have seen in the past that breakaways have been successful here at the Campagnolo Grand GFNY World Championship event. So anything is still up for grabs, and you could have further unknown riders to us actually impact the final of today.
Absolutely. Since it's an amateur race and you don't know who's who, you could have people back in the pack watching each other from last year. You could have Ricardo Pachetta watching my teammate Victor Gross because they finished together last year, and they can just definitely say, I remember him.
Yeah.
I stared at his rear end the whole day. I remember him. I remember that he's strong. I don't want to go without him because I don't know who the rest of these people are. So that's something that can work to your detriment in this case because you missed the break.
Absolutely. The finesse of a bike race is really interesting no matter what the format. So even though our format is a marathon style event where everybody is corralled together at the start line and we start genders together. In fact, rider number 1 today is actually Camila Cortez from Bogota, Colombia. Camila was the winner last year. She is one of the strongest athletes in the field, but she wears number 1, whereas Ricardo Pachetta, who is the male winner last year, he wears bib number 2. Both genders start together, we move forward, but we still judge the winners based on who crosses the line first. Those dynamics will really affect what occurs here today as we get into the real meat of our race.
We're looking at the moto that's behind with the chasing groups. They just passed a long strung out chasing group that's going to another long strung out chasing group. That's a fantastic eyewear you have there, Gabe. I'm not sure where you got that.
You know where I got this?
Where's that?
GFNY.com.
Lord.
Oh, man.
Fantastic.
Spot on.
So they're coming up to a chasing group that's strung out. So what that tells you is that there's angry things going on. Somebody's mad. Somebody is putting a lot of effort in, and it's going to either shell people off the back or it's going to catch the front. So
that's what's happening in the
there's a
field
lot
right
of
there.
things going on in this field right now.
That's what's happening. You know what's happening? This is happening.
That is happening.
You know, they're checking each other out. They're saying, hey, that guy over there,
Yeah.
what's he up to? What's he up to?
Look at that.
That's what's happening.
We're reenacting risky business right now. So for you people that are really old,
There's a
that's a
table
reference
behind
that you'll
me.
get there. So, you know, that's a really old reference for the kids out there. Tom Cruise used to be a teenager.
What?
He was. He was
He's
a teenager.
still a teenager?
Yes. No, he is not still a teenager.
My goodness.
So we're looking at the back of what I think is a very large chase group. We're looking at 50 to 60 guys here. I think that these guys back here are confident that they're going to be able to catch the break.
I would agree with that totally. I mean, I think that this group definitely has a lot of horsepower in it that's capable of bringing back a group of 6. They've got a lot of relatively fresh legs for what they're doing. Now, what I'm not seeing, though, is a lot of organization.
Yes.
You know, that can mean that there are just a few riders in this group that are willing to do the work right now. And in an event like this, where everybody is, you know, wearing the same jersey and the team dynamics, while they are present, they are less so because there just aren't as many team riders together. You're forcing a lot of work on riders earlier in the event, and the motivations are mixed sometimes. A lot of individual riders wanting their own glory. That can be really challenging to figure out in this marathon style race.
It's true. And these riders behind, they're basically making a bet. They're making a bet that they can sit back and rest and not have that gap grow to the front enough that they can catch back on. They're hoping that they can catch back on when it happens. Sometimes you bet and you win, sometimes you lose.
Yeah.
So this could be definitely a time where you might lose.
Absolutely. So up and down, a lot of undulations here today. Even though we only have a few categorized climbs, this entire course is super challenging for everybody here. And we're going to see riders starting to be tailed off. So if you're actually watching the stream on another screen, which you can do at gfny.com, you'll see that some riders are being tailed off even right after this Rockland Lake climb. I remember the Rockland climb. You know, go up past the old Toga bike shop. Is that still there?
Perhaps.
Yeah, so there used to be a bike shop that was on the Rockland Lake climb. You go on up there and you're heading into the real meat of the beginning of your Bear Mountain ride for the day. That's where these riders are, and we are seeing splits occurring in the peloton.
Looks like we have
that's right.
people stopping, so we might have somebody down.
Well,
we have somebody's crash. It's wet out today.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of sketchy conditions, so this can happen. Somebody's down on the ground. It looks like they're okay. They're going to get back up. As far as we know, the moto's just going to leave them behind. That's bike racing,
right.
baby.
That happens.
You stop, you crash. All right, I'll see you later.
So one of the rules of the GFNY is actually if you see a rider on the ground and nobody is attending to him, it is a race rule that at least 3 people must stop to assist that rider.
Is that how it happens?
That is a rule in the rule book. I read that last night in the media guide, and I found that very interesting because that is completely different from any other bike race. As Dan just said, what Dan just said is actually 100% 100% what we are familiar with.
Law of the jungle, baby.
Yeah. But in GFNY, it is definitely a different breed of racing. It is super competitive, as you will see as we hit the final 50 miles of this race. But there is still a bit of camaraderie that is expected of everybody here today. I find that really interesting and really special. You know, that really changes sort of the overall mentality of everybody that's out here. We're out here to sort of enjoy the environment, enjoy the roads. The GFNY series is 17 races from around the world. You get to travel to all sorts of parts of the world if you want to compete in the overall series. And being part of that family is very much a part of competing in any GFNY event.
And if you do all 17, not only do you win the series, you also win a lot of frequent flyer miles. I mean, you're going to Indonesia, you're going everywhere. That's bananas. So you really have to be committed to be able to do it. There's Nelson Vales. Passing right by.
Vales is passing us.
So he just passed by.
DNF, Nelson Vales.
Nelson is a former track sprinter. He was the silver medalist in the 1980 Olympics in Los Angeles. Not necessarily his type of course today.
Not necessarily.
So usually a track sprinter is going to go about 250, 500 meters at a time. This is a little longer than that. They go very quickly.
Yeah.
So this is not necessarily his course.
Absolutely.
But it's good to see him out here today enjoying himself.
But this course actually does suit a number of riders out here today, and we're going to actually take a moment to go back through some of our defending champions and overall riders from years past. So our defending returning champions from the women's elite category, Camila Cortez of Colombia and Riccardo Picetta of Italy, who now lives in Brazil. Those two riders are back with us this year in New York City. Returning overall podium finishers, Maria Gianella of Colombia and Victor Gross, he is back as well.
That's my guy. All right, Victor.
That is right. So Victor, you are on call, buddy, to defend yourself here from the podium.
Give them Enfar. That's hell in French, right? Enfar du Nord?
L'enfant du Nord. I know the phrase, but I can't remember the
Give them Enfar.
You know how you can help us out? Jump on the old Twitter. Mention NY Velocity or mention Gabe Lloyd. That's how you can help us understand what we're saying.
Help us speak French. Thank you very much.
Oui, bien sûr, merci beaucoup.
It's already out on the course, guys.
We are also assisting people right here in Fort Lee, New Jersey.
We're almost like the concierge of the entire race. We're just going to tell people where it goes, what happens.
What can we do? Can we get you some towels?
The porta potties are right over there. We know where it's at.
If you need it.
We found out. So you can buy your coffee here. You can get all sorts of things at the finish line. There's a Jumbotron.
There is a Jumbotron.
There is GFNY coffee. There is GFNY wine.
What?
Yes, there is.
GFNY wine?
It's red wine, so they're not necessarily going to spray it all over each other on the podium.
That wouldn't look very good.
Yeah. Don't do that with red wine, and it's not sparkling wine either, so it's not the way to do it.
Edward Wines is a sponsor of the GFNY World Championship event here today, and we really appreciate their support of everything we do. A lot of our competitors will receive this red wine as well as some of our Colombian coffee.
You sign up, you just get this. You just get this for being here. That's great.
Right.
And the official bike sponsor is De Rosa, which is an Italian brand that's been around forever. Ugo De Rosa was the bike builder to Eddie Merckx. And Eddie Merckx is pretty much the most legendary cyclist that's ever been a cyclist. So Ugo knows what he's doing, and Cristiano is here this year. His son is in the GFNY.
Racing?
He is participating.
Wow.
And I would assume he is on a De Rosa.
I would, yes.
Yeah?
He was banned from Thanksgiving if he does not ride.
Either that or don't be in the family anymore.
Done.
So
finito.
Exactly. So we've got riders out on the course. We've got the moto, and we're trying to assess what is going on.
Yes.
I think we're picking up chasers, and I'm not sure if this is the front of the race or if this is the rear of the race. It sounds like these are people that are getting dropped off in arrears, which is a fantastic word.
That is
And we're seeing if we're going to go to the front of the race. We have right now 5 racers that were in a break that are out of sight. And we're hoping to see what kind of time gaps they get, where they're at. They're out there in the mist. So that actually helps a breakaway because the riders behind can't see them. So if they can't see them, they don't know whether they're working hard. They don't know if they're working together. So that helps if you're in a break.
Absolutely. So that's weather conditions affecting an event. Today we started in relatively chilly conditions. It's been raining in New York all week, and it has actually rained quite a bit the past 2 days, and yesterday during set day rained quite a lot. That affected a lot of things, but what it made the ground really saturated. And now this morning we have a very warm front coming up from the south. In fact, our high here in New York City today is 81 degrees Fahrenheit. That very warm weather creates a lot of fog and mist. To compound that, it's actually raining up at Bear Mountain right now, but it is not raining down here in Fort Lee. So almost there is a separate weather condition happening up at the northern part of our course, about 50 miles north of us here. And then down here further south, it is dry currently with the sun actually poking through here and there. Weather will play a factor, and gorillas in the mist for sure.
Gorillas in the mist.
Yeah.
It's true. When you're in a breakaway, I've always felt one of the main advantages, if you wanted to be in a breakaway, would be the ability to become invisible, where the chasing pack wouldn't be able to catch you. This mist actually helps out. You can almost be invisible, because I would say visibility is probably not what it should be normally. And once they get up into the rain up near Bear Mountain, I don't know if it's a quarter mile, I don't know if it's a half mile. I don't know how deep the mist is.
No one knows.
So, but that doesn't hurt. So that can definitely help. So you can do your shenanigans out at the front, see what happens.
Yeah.
Have like everybody work together. Last we saw in the break, back when they were still being televised, they were working together.
Working together very well, collaborating very well. We had definitely some strong riders doing their best to hold off a chasing peloton. We saw that chasing peloton on the Rockland Lake climb, which again means they are getting very close to our next big moment in the race, which is Haverstraw. So Rockland Lake is located at 38.5 kilometers into the 160 kilometer day. Haverstraw comes up at the 48 kilometer mark. So we're definitely starting to get into moments of this race that are starting to hit the legs a bit harder. And that's the cool thing about this course design. It gets harder throughout the day. So it's not like it's front loaded. You have to do a lot of work and then you're just sort of suffering on the flats to get home. Not at all. The first half of this race, if anything today, you might actually have a tailwind on the easier part, and then when you're coming back through the hills of New Jersey, you might actually have a headwind.
You're going to hate New Jersey if it's a headwind coming through. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty brutal if they do have a headwind coming back, and that's going to make it so that it could bunch things up. A headwind tends to make that pack of geese put together, slide together so they can get the advantage of the draft, but who knows, if you're brave enough, knock it out there, see what happens.
Absolutely. I mean, the bravery of some of these riders to come out here and take on 5,000 riders from 95 different countries is tremendous. But I'd like to give a shout out now while we are waiting for some of our feeds to come back. We actually have 26 riders registered here today who have finished all 7 of the GFNY New York City 100-mile routes over the years. So
that's 700 miles of this for each of them.
That's right. So this is the 8th year of the Campagnolo GFNY World Championship event. We have 26 riders returning for the 8th year that are coming in and doing the 8th run. That would be Alan McIntosh, Alex Ostroy, Alan Warner, Bruce Arminate. Bruce. Edwin Adams. Eric Villarus. Frank Howard. Grant Johnson. Hayo Thiel. Tiele?
I think.
Yeah. Twitter us.
Yeah.
Tell us what we did wrong.
Yes.
At Gabe Lloyd. At NY Velocity. Twitter us. Tell us what we did wrong.
I will butcher your name.
Me too.
Yeah, it's
We're
guaranteed.
not immune to butchering names. You know, I practice names a lot, and this is the first time I read this.
My Midwestern mouth doesn't usually do too well with some sort of accent. So
let's just go put some corn kernels in there. Then it's fluent. John Rozzo, Jim Ringren, Jamie Villaruz, Kenley Gonzalez, Martin Skotnicki.
I would say.
Michael Walder, Michael Painter, Michael McLaughlin.
Congratulations.
They're the Michael brothers.
Yes. Trio of Michaels.
Nathan Carlson, Paolo Botti, Raymond Carlson, Renee Villaruz, Sheldon Pickholtz, Sony Raposo, Peter Walder, Frank Lee, John Cicchini.
It looks like there's 2 brothers on there. I'm looking at the Villarus brothers. Renee and Eric. Perhaps they're related, father-son, not sure.
Could be husband-wife.
Could be.
Don't
Yeah.
make
I don't know.
assumptions, Dan.
I don't make assumptions. I don't
That's okay.
judge. I don't judge.
We speculate.
Yeah, we speculate. We don't know for sure.
They could be cousins.
And what we're speculating about right now is that there's still a group of 5 away. They're going to make it to Bear Mountain, and then things get real.
Things get really real because Bear Mountain is one of the hardest races, especially in this area. But we've got a lot of really strong riders behind them. Mexican Luis Limas of the Pro Team Israeli Cycling Academy. He's no stranger to GFNY. In 2015, he won GFNY Cozumel right before becoming an Olympian to represent Mexico.
Oh, hold on. We have a report coming in.
Rio Games.
Hey, Alex, what's up?
Okay, so here's the deal. We're getting right to the top. We're up Perkins Memorial Drive now. Cedric Haas is up the road all by himself.
Cedric
Whoa,
Haas is up the
Cedric
road by himself
Haas!
on Bear Mountain.
Woo!
Bring it, Cedric.
Four challengers, 4 guys following him. What are we saying? What is that gap? It was about 200 meters a little while ago.
200
We
meters.
don't see Cedric, so it's pretty misty up here.
It's at the base of
Four
Perkins, so
guys.
they're about to get up. They're on the climb now.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
They're,
Oh, wow.
they're getting up to the top. They've got probably about 2 miles left to go. 2K.
Get 'em on.
2K to go.
To the
2K
top of the hill.
top.
To
All
the
right, we
kid
have
on
2K to the
Bear
top of
Mountain.
Bear Mountain. We have
Wow.
Cedric Haas, who is our new favorite rider ever.
Wow, Cedric Haas.
Yes.
I'm a fan.
He was bib number 1213, so he started way back. He had to push his way to the front, and now he's off the front.
Yeah, he is off the front. He just was looking around, sitting up, looked like he was just up for a Sunday ride.
Wow.
We got 4 guys, 4 chase guys, and that is Trujillo, who's looking pretty good.
Yes?
Carlos Trujillo from Colombia.
Mm-hmm.
Pallmeyer.
Yes? Ralph Palmeyer?
Ratzman.
Mm-hmm. Right. And Gonzalez?
And Dieter Egle. Gonzalez is no more. We don't know exactly. Vanished.
And what?
Oh, I'm sorry. Dieter Egli, who's from Brooklyn.
Dieter.
That's a
What?
Egli, E-G-L-I. His last name is number 243.
Did he make his way up to the break?
We don't know exactly at what point, or if we were misreporting Gonzalez.
Okay.
But it is number 243 Dieter Egli.
Oh, we did have a number 143 that might have been misreported as 243?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. All right. Good to know. So he's probably been in the break the whole time. Okay.
Okay.
No service.
Thank you, Alex.
Cedric Haas. Come on.
Wow,
That's
Cedric
awesome.
Haas. All right, so while we were...
He's coming out of nowhere. He's like this French tsunami that's coming up to the front of the race. He's coming through. He's at the front, and now he's off the front on Bear Mountain. So he's on the climb.
This
That
is
looks like we
Cedric.
have Cedric Haas's Facebook profile up.
Yep, we found Cedric Haas. I'm pretty good at this. Cedric Haas, he is from France. He is here with his family, actually.
Fantastic.
So we were right. He made a vacation out of the Campagnola GFNY World Championship event. Brought him his little kiddo, looks like, with him, and they went to the expo this week. They did some sightseeing. That's one of the coolest things about our format, where you can come in and you can be a relatively unknown rider, but your family can enjoy it too, coming into town, racing with us. But Cedric Haas right now of Haas Cycling Experience, looks like he is off the front by himself, and as Alex said, looking like he's out for a Sunday ride.
Wow, that's impressive. That is very impressive. So it sounds like Cedric, this is not his first rodeo. This is not his first time in a bike race, perhaps. If you have a cycling company named after you, that makes me think you've probably raced your bike before.
He's got a little bit of experience, I would have to say, if he's basing his life around it. So my feed isn't working, but it looks like we do see him. And as an update of where the riders are, so they are just about at the 71-kilometer mark of the 160K route. So Cedric is by himself.
It looks
right
like he's
now.
coming up to the peak of the mountain. Maybe he has about a K to go.
Wow, 1K to go. So he's at 70Ks right now by himself. So Dan, let's talk about the descent off of this. What's that like?
The descent is steep, fast, with a lot of turns, and the main thing to remember about the descent is that you're coming down as people are coming up. So you can't take the whole road. You can only take one lane.
Oh, wow.
You don't want to go over to the other side because you're going to be plowing into whoever's following you. But this also means that the people going up the descent can see the people coming down the descent.
Oh, wow.
So that's going to give you an idea of how far away they are.
Right.
So this might be the first time that these people in this chase group get an idea of how far away or how far away the lead group is.
Right, so that can be really motivating for a lot of riders to see that, but it can also be really depressing.
Yes.
You know, you're like, oh my goodness, I'm riding really hard, and this guy's riding even faster than me.
If you hit the base of Bear Mountain while that guy is coming down, that's a bummer.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't want to be too far away and just see the race going up the road and have it be just completely depressing when you get there. So.
No, absolutely not. So, you know, I mean, we're gonna. That is one of the only moments in this race where you're going to see passing riders on opposite sides of the road, because this entire thing is fully closed to traffic. We have no other cars on the pavement right now. Really cool format for everybody involved. Looks like Cedric is doing quite well. I'm on his Strava account right now.
Gabe's doing a little stalking of Cedric right now. We're trying to figure out what he does as far as volume of training.
Yeah.
And we have to know whether he has a KOM somewhere. We have to know that. We should know that.
Yeah. And he
so how's he look?
He's getting he's setting some PRs here, which is only relative to his own efforts. But it looks like he's got some good volume here. Over his monthly activity. I'm gonna log in. Looks like I got logged out because I'm on the fancy Wi-Fi here.
The internet is a wonderful thing, and this is the way that most racers find out who's going strong. You can be on Strava and not show everybody what you're up to,
right?
Or you can use it as a strategic plan and just have private rides, which is completely jerk move as far as I'm concerned.
Why would you do that?
We want to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
I'm riding,
Come on,
you're
man.
riding. Share the info, bro.
There it is.
What's wrong with that? Why can't we all know what's going on?
Got
here?
logged into my account.
So, the Strava account, New York is a very Strava dense place. The Central Park segment is the most traffic segment on Strava. So there's been 560,000 circuits of Central Park done on Strava.
How many?
560,000. That's 3 million miles.
That's like to the moon.
Yes. And the man who owns the KOM of that is local rider Scott Savory. So he is the fastest man on Strava, hence the fastest man in the world.
Clearly.
He owns it.
Clearly.
He's the one. He did a 30.1 mile per hour. That's a 6-mile circuit. Scott was doing 30.1 miles per hour. He was in the break at the Mangoni race a couple years ago.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what really happened. He was working in a break, I'm going to say. Sure. Let's say Scott was driving the break.
Driving it.
Yes. Scott is a local racer, great sprinter. Not here today because just not his style of race.
Right. So I'm getting some reports from some friends right now who are not here, who are helping us see what we cannot see. And it does look like the lead rider and chasers have all just crested Bear Mountain. So the lead rider, Cedric Haas here, and all the chasers have all crested, so they are now on the descent. This is the decisive moment because now those riders are going to see each other back and forth. So again, if you want to help us out while we're sitting here in Fort Lee, tweet me at Gabe Lloyd, tweet Dan at NY Velocity.
NY Velocity.
Right, and we will do our best to relay the information to the rest of the broadcast. We have riders from 95 different countries, 5,000 starters here today, a phenomenal turnout for all. So we're going to try to refresh our feeds here, do what we can to...
This looks like we're on the descent right now on the moto.
So we have a feed up, and so yes, wow, we are passing riders on the descent. That looked crazy.
Yeah. We had a brief moment when we had the moto up, and now the moto's down.
Yeah.
We are on a mountain.
On a mountain, Bear Mountain, so to speak. So this is the second rated climb of the day. It tops out at 400 meters. For Americans, that's 1,200 feet.
Yes.
And that's, you know, that's a hard climb. And for the Bear Mountain Classic, which is a local favorite event here, it is a precursor to what you see here at the Campagnolo GFNY World Championship event. It's very challenging on the legs, and we saw some local favorites do very well there a few weeks ago.
Yes, we did. We saw Victor Gross was in the top 5, and we had Mike Marguerite right there in the mix. So they are both in what would be the chasing pack today. But as far as we know, Cedric Haas still burning it up off by himself. We'll see if he's taking any chances on the descent. Hopefully a Bill Ash does not happen to him and he makes his way through. So that would be kind of heartbreaking to have Cedric fall right now.
Absolutely. Well, so Cedric's Strava account is private.
Cedric, come on, dude. Come on.
Bruh.
Yeah, I know. That's so uncool.
So I've requested a follow, and maybe he's just...
He might be there.
Since he's out on a leisurely ride,
Yeah.
maybe he can approve my follow request.
They say that he's like feeling pretty good, looking pretty good out there, so you never know what's going to happen.
Be like, oh, I got a notification from Gabe Lloyd. Hell yeah, I'm gonna let him follow. So let's
Smart.
see if he lets me pick up on that. Otherwise, we're gonna try to jump back to our feeds here. And again, you can tweet us at Gabe Lloyd at NY Velocity. You can also use the hashtag GFNY to help us know what is happening here today. A lot of riders, and when we have this back and forth passing of riders, it's going to be really exciting to see if that changes our race dynamic at all.
There's going to be a lot of guys going up this climb slowly, and they're going to be looking at the guys flying by, and they're going to go, who is that guy that went by? And they're going to like, what's his number? Was that Ralph Palmer? And they're going to try to figure out what's going on. So they're going to figure out who's in front, where they need to be, and what they need to do. So this could change the strategery,
yes,
to use a George Bush term, to change the strategy of how they're going to go about this. So this is where the race really starts. Before this, we've had a lot of, let's say, pace keeping, kind of keeping their markers off the front. Now, when it gets to Bear Mountain, everything after that, it's game on. So Cedric, hopefully you can hold on out there. We think you're off the front. You might be.
Yeah.
We can make up a story as what's going on. Cedric could be out there. He could be
eating.
He's French. He could be putting a scarf on. He could be doing all kinds of things out there. You never know.
He's, of course, looking good while he rides.
Yes.
He's got all of his GFNY gear on, and he's got his sunnies on.
Yep.
He's just like pro. I bet his bike is pro.
Yes. I know that my teammate Victor, who is French also,
bien
very
sûr.
rarely seen without a scarf.
Bien
Very
sûr.
rarely. It has to be about 60 degrees for him to go out scarfless. So he might be scarfing right now. I'm not sure. He was scarfing at Bear Mountain.
Could happen.
You never
Could
know.
happen.
He could have a scarf. And I do know that in this sort of weather, he's going to have a bright pink one on because that's one of our colors on
There you
Rockstar Games.
Yeah.
So if you see a bright pink scarf on a Frenchman out there, you know what's going on.
So speaking of, Rockstar Games and the Weather Channel both missed this move. Excuse me.
The
And-
Weather Channel's there. Ralph is up. Conrad's up there. Conrad
is
Ratzman is up there.
Okay,
Yes.
so we do have a representative for the Weather Channel up
Yes.
there, but Rockstar Games missed it.
Yes.
Victor missed it. So who are some of the teammates of Victor that could be pulling right
We're
now?
going to have James Mallman. We're going to have Greg Hruby. We're going to have Tom Roderi, who is a Frenchman. We are going to have Paul Yates. Paul Yates will be working the break path.
Yates.
Chris Shaw. They will all be working because when they go up, if they are all together, and if they see that these guys are off the front, it's time to get serious here because this is when the race can split apart. This is when it's a very advantageous part of the course to be away.
Absolutely.
Once you get through hills.
Absolutely. And, Paul Yates has definitely a lot of potential here. I watched him do a Zwift competition in New York last year, I believe,
Yeah.
and he gave Lawson Craddock a run for his money.
He did.
So, Paul definitely knows how to push the watts, how to sweat all over his bike.
Yeah.
But, let's see if he can be a real asset to his teammate Victor here today.
Zwift may be imaginary, but it's all real, Gabe.
That's right.
I have raced on Zwift, and it's bananas.
Yeah?
It is.
Did you get knocked over?
I did get knocked over. I fell. I got back on, and I didn't win.
A little road rash?
Little
carpet
imaginary
burn?
road rash. Little road rash.
E-rash.
Zwift is a great platform to be able to train for things like this, and they do have races. They do have group rides.
Yeah.
And the races are bananas. I can tell you, I don't know what you people are doing, but it's crazy. I think that some people do have like maybe a drill and they're just running their rear cog, which I think is cheating a little bit. Yeah. So
Yeah.
because some of these
That's
guys
like-
just start out these races doing 350 watts. I'm like, who are you? Are
Not
you an
human.
android?
Not human. That's
Yeah.
motorized doping.
I think so. It could be.
E-doping.
We love to say that everyone's cheating when we lose, so I say they're cheating.
Clearly.
Okay, but you know who's not cheating? Cedric Haas.
Cedric Haas.
He could be out there. We don't know.
We don't know. If Cedric Haas was as skilled as Dan Craven, Cedric Haas would be live tweeting his adventures right now. Dan Craven, He is in this peloton today. He is a rider from Namibia. He has a lot of experience in professional pelotons. He's actually an Olympian, and he is best known for his live tweets from the Olympic peloton a few years ago in Rio.
From his bike.
From his bike.
Not everybody thinks to bring their phone when they're in a race.
No, you know what? I'm going to jump on the Twitter right now and see if I can find Gavin Craven, see if he's live tweeting our event. You're going to refresh some feeds.
We've got a feed coming up here, which is from the lead car, and they're showing the back of the lead moto, which doesn't necessarily tell us anything.
Wow.
But this looks like we're definitely going down the downhill. Looks like we're off the mountain.
So I have a few updates here, it looks like, from our Bear Mountain feed. Camilla, the lead woman, she just crested Bear Mountain.
Fantastic.
So she's beating thousands of men, which is amazing.
Go
women's cycling. And then she will, in fact, be going for her 6th women's win here at the Campagnolo GFNY World Championship event in New York. So that's great to see for women's cycling, that your defending champion is out on course, riding really well without any mechanicals. You know, best of luck to her, because she now has the final 50 miles to come back.
She does.
In our kilometers.
So we're still seeing what's going on. We're still getting intermittent feeds. So we're going to tell a tale here. We're going to write a novel about what's going on. Cedric is off the front, probably breathing heavily, I'm going to say. And you've probably got the 4 remaining riders that went up behind him. Maybe they're together, maybe they're not. You might have Conrad Ratzman attacking. He's a light, small climbers build, so I'm assuming that he could probably attack in some of these areas. So they're trying to see what everybody's got. If you get up on that hill, you're trying to see who's strong, who's going to be able to stay, who can stick. And that's definitely a place to do it if you're going to go on Bear Mountain.
Yeah, if you're going to get on Bear Mountain, now's the time. You're really going to show yourself. You're going to start to move up to the front, and I would expect other riders like Mexican Luis Lemus. Sorry about the
Luis Lemos.
Luis
Lemos.
He's on the pro cycling team of the Israeli Cycling Academy, a very high caliber team in and of itself. He was also on Airgas a few years ago, so he's got a few years of professional experience in his legs. He's also an Olympian in this field. He's represented Mexico at the Rio Olympics, so we definitely will be looking for him to be coming up.
Lewis is I talked to Lewis on Friday as we were at the dinner, and he used to be on Jelly Belly, which is a Division II team in the United States, and he was teammates with Brad Huff. Do you know Brad Huff?
I know Brad Huff.
Most people who know Brad Huff like Brad Huff, because if you don't like Brad Huff, there's probably something wrong with you.
Something wrong with you.
So Lewis was telling a story that his first roommate on Jelly Belly was Brad Huff. And the first night that they got to camp where they were staying, Brad Huff asked Lewis to shave his back. So that's a nice little slice of life for the road, what happens when you're on the Jelly Belly team and you're in the hotel room together.
You know, it's not so much that that story exists, it's like, how did that story even come up?
I said, do you know Brad Huff? And he's like, yes, I've met Brad Huff. And I'm like, oh, because everybody who's met Brad Huff has, oh, you've met Brad Huff. Okay. All right, so you just kind of wait to hear what's going to happen. Because the first time I met Brad Huff, we were in Las Vegas for the Interbike show.
Ah.
And we were at it was after the show, and we were in one of the lounges in one of the one of the gambling dens of sin or whatever it was.
Yes.
So we were inside, and there was a bachelorette party there. And
those are fun in Vegas.
Yeah, they're great. So they were having a good time. Brad just decided to join in, started breakdancing in the middle of the bachelorette party.
What?
But Brad Huff does not know how to breakdance. So
he's from Missouri.
He's a farm boy from Missouri. So he was doing breakdancing-ish moves. He probably put himself on top of his head and spun around.
Wow.
And the ladies loved it. They were, they were all over it.
Of course ladies love Brad
He was
Huff.
basically a free dance show for a bachelorette party in Las Vegas.
Did he make any money off of this endeavor?
He didn't. He wasn't good enough.
Brad.
So, but that's a very typical first meeting Brad Huff type of story. So the back shaving incident is not necessarily a shocker.
Yeah.
Well, but if you ever stay over with Brad Huff, be prepared.
Be prepared. Bring a razor.
Yeah.
Bring a razor. Some Barbasol.
Bring a razor, and you might have to be. You might be
lotion.
challenged to feats of strength. You never know what's going to happen with the Huff.
You never know.
So, but he was just a U.S. crit champion 2 years ago.
He was, yeah, and he's been racing the Tour of California. He's been doing some other great things. We'll see him. I'll see him later on this year at some other big races like the Tour of Colorado. So I think it'll be really cool to to see him. But today's race, we have
here we go. We have another live update coming in.
We've got some live updates coming from the field.
Alex, what's up, buddy?
Hey, so
Hey.
we've got 20 guys now up at the front.
Wow, 20 guys up at the front right now. Okay.
Yeah, and some of the Eglés, for example, he's dropped back.
Mhm.
It's a pretty strong group. Cedric, we're not sure if he's in this group of 20, but they're all together working up here. So up on Bear, that big pack of 100 riders who were at the base of Bear, they really started to hammer, and they caught the leaders, the 5 leaders.
Okay.
A couple of them have been dropped. I don't have a full read on who these riders are. Maybe from Ben's feed you're going to be able to see numbers, because I see that Ben is up there with that primary group. So.
And you've got the guys in front of you from the lead car, is that correct? Looking from your feed?
Yes, so Ben is up there with the feed.
And you guys are behind the front group?
And we're behind Ben. We are behind Ben, that's correct, and we're going to catch up.
Okay. And it's
Pretty
all
soon.
together. We don't have anyone off the front. Cedric's been caught?
Cedric, as far as we know, has been caught,
Mhm.
and we've got 20 guys together on the front.
Okay, great. Thank you very much,
Thank
Alex.
you. Okay, bye.
All right, for all you Cedricaholics out there, Cedric is back in the group, perhaps.
Perhaps.
We don't know the composition of the group of 20 at the front.
Catch.
It sounds like the early group has been caught.
Yeah.
So, as we might have predicted before, it seems like the group behind hedged their bets. And they probably had people working behind to catch what was going to go on Bear Mountain. Bear Mountain being the decisive climb. They decided to catch them, and they have. And now the race is basically set to 0. So we're going to see what's going to happen, who's there, who's going to attack, and who's feeling good today.
Right, yeah. So, a lot of those early moves can really start to bite you in the wrong way when you have gone too early in a race like this that has a lot of climbs, and now we think are coming back into a potential headwind. We're going to start to hit the Andrea Pinarello climb here shortly. And those efforts that have been put in so far maybe were over zealous, so to speak, because you
can call it optimism, you can call it delusion. You go out, you see what's going to happen, you never know what's going to happen. Best of luck, or it can all come crashing down horribly.
Absolutely, yes, that's a whole thing. So, we're going to look for some of our feeds to come back, but that update is really interesting. We have 20 riders together, it sounds like. Oh, all right, so I just got a feedback here, and yeah, our peloton is large again. So we, for a while today, we had just 6 riders off the front, and now we've ballooned that back up. So
I see Ralph Pallmeyer at the back of that ride, so he's still stuck in there from the early break, so he's hanging in there.
Great.
The wind is incredibly calm right now, so...
At least here.
Yeah, at least here it is. So when they get here, there won't be any wind. Sun's starting to peek out. It's starting to warm up. So we've got a group of 20. Big Ralph is tail gunning right now. I'm sure he's a little tired from going up, but he did last over Bear Mountain, which is pretty incredible for a guy of his size.
Okay.
So I'm not size shaming him. I'm just saying he's a big dude.
He's strong.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next road marker that we've got on our list here is the Mott Farm Road. Mott Farm Road at 87 kilometers into today's event. Hold on here. Let me put my GFNY shades on.
Oh, yeah, you just went in.
Thank goodness I got these GFNY shades.
Yeah, you did. There we go. So we've got that group of 20 off the front. We're going to see what's going to be happening with these guys. Right now, it seems like they're satisfied with the way things have gone. What might have happened is that the contenders from each of the teams got into the move, and then everyone behind said, all right, I'll see you at the finish. Good luck out there.
Right. That's entirely what could happen. At this point, with 20 riders together, and it does not look like we're even riding in a double pace line or anything sort of formed, right? Like, this is definitely a race where there are a few riders at the front trying to set pace, and a lot of other riders behind them just sitting in, biding their time, and probably going to let the course actually take the hurt out of the other riders who are on the front doing the work right now.
This is a good time to be a local because you're going to know what's happening, where the hills are going to come, and where you can attack. So I would look for local riders who have a knowledge of the course to go to the front and put pressure on, because they just know where they're at. If you're our Cedric, you might not know that these things are coming up and you just might get dropped here. We hope not, because, you know, we've become big Cedric fans.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, so
He's an
hopefully he's still
entertainer.
going to be able to hang in there. But it is a big group right now. They're not pace lining in a very efficient way, so that makes me think that they're kind of treading water. They're waiting for the next hill.
Yeah, we'd like to try to get our camera up to the front of this field just to see what's going on, but it looks like that is happening
And we're
right
getting a
now.
pass
It's like
by.
it read my mind.
Conrad's still there.
So Conrad's in there.
Ralph
That's great.
Hallmeyer.
Rolf is there. I see some of the CCB riders in there as well. CCB is a current professional team. They do a bit of racing in Europe and Asia. So definitely a lot of good fitness in there right now. Once we identify those riders, we will be able to
tell you what's going on.
tell you what's happening. There's a lot of action happening right now. We're just trying to identify who is doing what. A lot of action right now, though.
Yes, this group has established itself, so we're going to see when the fireworks are going to start here. It should be soon. We're coming up to more decisive areas of the course. This is a good time for everybody to take a breath after the descent, eat something.
That's right. Get themselves a Cliff Bar.
Yep,
Get themselves a Science and Sport Gel.
that's right.
SIS gels, delicious and
Mm-hmm.
so good for you, giving all the nutrients and energy that you need
Yes,
all day long.
I'm pretty sure Cedric approves.
Absolutely.
I'm
he
sure
does.
Cedric has one today.
Yeah, and if you have any of those Cliff Bar nut butter bars,
Oh, they're delicious.
delicious.
Yeah,
Those are my favorite.
It's more than we deserve, really.
Yeah.
So the group they're still treading water. We're going to find out what's going on. If you're watching that feed and maybe listening to us, if you have that level of internet skill, congratulations.
Mm-hmm.
You're seeing that they're passing by the people that are going up to Bear Mountain, so they're going to have to stay on their side of the road, obviously, not run head on into anyone that's coming the other direction. But this is a big group for this point in the race, so that portends
Right. So let's
attacks are going to start fast and furious.
Let's talk race history. Over the past few years, have we seen a group this large come off of Bear Mountain together?
We have. Last
Okay.
year, in fact, there was a group of about 50, I want to say, according to Victor Gross.
All right.
And it just basically got winnowed down. It was basically a war of attrition over all the hills.
Okay.
There were people coming off as they went through, and eventually there were just a couple of people left. They got to 2K to go. They got to Forbidden Hill, Gabe.
Oh, okay.
I don't think we've done the Forbidden Hill wrap recently again, but
Not recently.
there's
no.
a hill that you can come up off of River Road that is on the course this year that normally is closed to cyclists. You're not allowed. Cars can go up there, but cyclists can't. That's why it's called Forbidden Hill. So this year they go up Forbidden Hill. There's about 2K to go. Forbidden Hill is quarter mile, 8-ish, 10-ish%. So it's steep enough, especially at that point of the race,
Okay.
to land some knockout blows. Victor went just after they went hard on Forbidden Hill, and then last year's winner, Ricardo Pachetta, caught up to him and then basically killed him in the sprint. So that's basically what happened last year. So this is kind of what happened last year. So you're going to have like this group getting along, and then everything's going to go sideways. They're going to start attacking each other.
So
I
Dan-
would expect that to happen.
Dan, checking out our feed right now, they just made a sharp right-hand turn, like a 120-degree turn. Would that be the start of our Mott Farm Road climb?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, so Mott Farm, it is not actually a categorized climb, but it is significant enough to make it onto our cue sheet. So they are 87 kilometers into today's event. That would be 54 miles, so to speak. Doing a little time check, it is 9:20 in the morning. So they are going a little slower than 25 miles an hour, but much faster than 20 miles an hour. So average speed's probably 23.5 miles an hour if I had to do some math quickly for everybody. So Mott Farm Road, that's where we are, we believe.
And then we're going to be hitting Gate Hill Road that comes right after that.
Okay.
So that will be another decisive area right there. So
And
Mott Farm is Gate Hill's at 94K, so that's going to be about 15K away. That's a steep hill also, so that can be very decisive.
And-
in talking to Victor last year, he said there was about 25 people at the top of Bear Mountain, and then as they went off, Victor said it was down to 25 at the top of Bear. They went up to 9W, and that's when the attacks started to happen. And then there was a break of 5, and Victor, in his very French way, said that the race was kind of boring at that point because he's French. You know, he doesn't smoke, but he should have went. It was kind of boring. But he said it was just people working together, and then as they got along, they started attacking one another. That's what happened. So yes, it could have things could happen after that. So
does he just scream French sayings at people sometimes?
Victor moved to the United States when he was 13.
Okay.
And Victor was a runner.
He knows all the swear words.
He does know all the swear words. And Victor was a runner in high school. He won't tell you this, but in Massachusetts, he's kind of a legend in the high school running world. I think he still owns the mile record for the state of Massachusetts.
Wow.
And then Victor went to run at the University of Michigan, where he was teammates and roommates with Michael Woods, who's doing the Giro right now.
What?
Yes, for the Education First team. So they're good friends, and they chat all the time.
Wow.
So Victor describes Mike as super talented and just on another plane as far as athletic endeavors go.
Yeah, I've heard that Mike Woods is super talented.
Yeah, but they are still bro-hams. They are in touch all the time. So, they find out what's going on.
So clearly Michael Woods is watching this feed right now.
Obviously.
Rooting for Victor Haas.
I'm assuming somebody has like an iPad in the Giro showing him what's going on right now.
Rusty Woods, he's like, I need to know what's happening at the Campagnolo GFNY World Championships because Victor Haas is in there and Victor is my buddy.
What's going on with my old roomie?
That's right.
Yeah.
Looking for those pink socks.
Looking for the pink socks.
In the Peloton.
Yes, and I haven't seen a scarf yet. Could be a scarf out there today.
Absolutely.
This is getting to be the temperature where Victor takes his scarf off. And, for you ladies out there, that's the best part of the race, to be honest.
Absolutely.
When a Frenchman takes off his scarf, you don't want to miss that.
It's magical.
Yeah. It's really something that you can't, put into words.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, we're getting on to Gate Hill Road right now.
Oh, okay.
So this is the lower slopes of Gate Hill Road. Gate Hill Road tops out at the top, very steep. Gate Hill's at about 90K.
Okay. So not the Andrea Pinarello climb.
Yeah.
It's before that.
Let's see.
So we have more of these
Gate Hill is at 94K.
So some of these hard, punchy climbs that really impact the race, impact the finale of our event, they're not actually even making the cue sheet. That's an indication of just how hard this return trip is. And just looking at some of the wind here in Fort Lee, I'm feeling it as it would be a headwind for the Peloton right now because it's coming down from that way. And our riders are coming from that way, so that means a headwind for sure for our Peloton. That's going to be a really hard reality as they hit these punchy climbs.
And we're losing the feed because we're heading into the mountains again, but it will come back and we will find out who's left.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm definitely curious where our female riders are. Camila Cortez riding very well right now. She was not that far behind the main Peloton, actually. So to have Camila Cortez do a great job as far as riding with the men and really using them to her advantage. She is allowed to do that. This is a marathon style event where everybody starts together. Camila Cortez is actually carrying bib number 1 today.
Fantastic.
Because she is the premier rider here, and the top male rider, Ricardo Picetta, he's last year's winner. He's actually wearing bib number 2.
And we don't know if he's in the break, but we would assume, since he's probably focusing on this rate, that he would be there.
Right.
I've just texted our guy out on the road, and I've misspelled Gate Road 3 times, and I just said hate at him 3 times.
Hate road.
Hate road. So he either thinks that I'm really angry, or he's going to tell me whether they're at Gate Hill Road.
He's like, Dan, you just need to get yourself some more Colombian coffee, courtesy of GFNY.
He's just saying hate. So he either thinks I need more coffee, or it's time for the wine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've got ourselves some T. Edward wines here right behind us. Those red wines, we are going to be cracking into those very shortly here.
It's been a long day.
We're going to fill up our elite water bottles with some T. Edward wines. Thank you to those 2 sponsors for coming out. Campagnolo, of course, is our title sponsor here today for the GFNY World Championships. Thank you to Campagnolo. In fact, there is a special corral for riders who ride Campagnolo parts on their bicycles all day long, so it's a really cool sponsorship that we have going with Campy. We also have DeRosa bikes here today. DeRosa is out in force, and of course the winner will receive a DeRosa bicycle on the podium, a great reward for the hard efforts, and it sounds like Camille Cortez will take home her 6th DeRosa bicycle outfitted with Campanolo components, as she is currently leading the women's division decisively as they last crested Bear Mountain. Dan,
right.
what are we seeing on our feeds over here?
On the feed, I'm seeing we're into some elevation, and there's some desperation at the back as people are trying not to get gapped off. So it looks like it's split into a group of, that looks like a group of about 10. And I cannot figure whether this is the front or some other part of the race. Let me try and see who is in the race still.
Okay, yeah, my feed, I maybe will pause my feed just because it's grainy and maybe taking up your bandwidth here on our Wi-Fi connections.
Right. I can't expand this, so I am looking at something that's the size of a deck of cards, trying to figure out the numbers that are on there. I will try to look at the shorts and see if I recognize anybody. That's my gift.
That came out weird.
It did come out weird. So let's not, don't isolate that and don't play that back. Thank you very much. We're going to take that out in post.
Grab that.
We're going to take that out in post.
Internet, grab that.
Thanks. So we've got about 10 people, I would say, lined out. So it's on the hill right now. So this is the part of the process that we were describing before, that people are going to start attacking on the hills, trying to knock people out of the race right now.
Right, so it's definitely single file. That's what we are seeing over here. We got a single file group, and the group has been split into a few pieces. So a few moments ago, when we hit the Gate Hill climb, I believe Dan said, it was all together. We had at least 20 riders together hitting the bottom of that climb, and then once we crested that climb, we saw massive splits occurring, and now on the descent, we are starting to get into single file riders.
Yes, we are rolling through, so we are going to be seeing what's going on here. We're up in the wilds of New York, New Jersey border right now. We haven't passed over into New Jersey yet.
Nope.
But we are rolling through here, so we're about to find out what's going on. This looks like Bear Mountain to me because there are no houses. So that would be the Bear Mountain area.
No one lives there.
No one lives there. No one's allowed to live in Bear Mountain. It's a park.
A park?
It is a park. So Bear Mountain is the park up there, and they usually don't allow you to live there unless it's a sort of like a Unabomber type situation. So we don't have any Unabombers in Bear Mountain right now, but they are bombing down this road. Did you see what I just did there, Gabe? Thank you.
That was great, Dan.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Wow.
All right, we've got a lot of movement going on here. It looks like this group is down to about 10. So
10 riders.
if this is the front of the race,
wow,
this is going to get interesting now. I'm trying to get the lead car
so
feed up
we've
here
essentially
also.
split this group now, right? That's what we're looking at.
We are looking at attacks coming.
If
It
you-
looks like in the lead car we might have 2, 3, 5 riders up front. So they are definitely splitting off.
All
So
right.
it is getting hectic out there.
Very
And
hectic.
It is so hectic it is knocking the feed out.
knocking the internet down.
Concussive blasts from the attacks have
That's
actually
right.
knocked out the Wi-Fi up on Bear
The
Mountain.
internet cannot handle the fury of what's occurring here.
The
in our
data is
Peloton.
dropping out because of the furious attacks.
Furious.
We're getting recommendation for you guys to watch Julia's feed and try to like get info from that.
Gotcha.
Okay.
When
Yeah.
service allows.
Yep. We're on it.
We're working on getting those feeds up.
Our producer is telling us to watch the feeds. Okay, they are at Mott Farm Road right now,
Alright,
so
so
they are
we-
not at Gate Hill yet. But this is going to be a very decisive area here. I'm so
Wow.
excited, I'm going to put a cough drop in so I can talk for the rest of the race. Gabe,
That's right.
Halls?
I'm doing well, thank you, sir.
All right.
So I think we are at Mott Farm Road. That means we are officially 87 kilometers into today's race. 87 Ks in. That's
Somebody is definitely attacking, and there are 2 chasers.
And you can listen to his audio.
Okay.
okay.
We definitely have 2 chasers off the line, so we'll see what's going on here. I am going to
Dan's
plug
going
in.
for the earbuds.
I'm going to earbud to Uli, who is in the lead race car, and I'm going to try to figure out who is attacking.
What's the? This is like a radio.
And they're telling us
update.
to, yeah, I can see what's going on. I don't know who that is. That is definitely not a pair of shorts that I recognize. So that is definitely not somebody from the New York area that's off the front.
Okay, so the international contingency of this race is significant. We have 95 riders from 95 different countries coming in to this race today. Whoa, it just got real bright. And
It's getting warm out here, so things are warming up in the race, Gabe.
absolutely. Whoa!
Warming up in the race.
The heat is on in
heat
this
is on.
race today.
We have 1 off the front. It looks like 2 that are chasing. So it is really heating up right now. There's a firm separation going on out there.
All right, we have a lot of riders here from Brazil and Colombia that are going to make this race really hard as we hit these really decisive moments. So the final few climbs that we're going to look at today, we feel are going to be the most significant. It's going to be the Andrea Pinarello climb coming up. Later on, we're going to hit the Cheese Coat climb, which is at 100 kilometers in, and then the Dykeman Hill climb, which is the climb that takes you back into the main part of our New Jersey. We have an update, Dan?
We have 2 up the road, and we have 1 Colombian following. We can't figure out who it is yet.
Wow.
But he is chasing desperately to try to catch the 2 that are at the front. I would say the 2 up the front had about 200 meters, maybe about 10 seconds, which seems like an eternity right now.
Yeah. You know, the gaps on a climb like this are much longer than they are for the time. So even though a rider may only be 10 seconds away from the rest of the peloton, because they're on that climb, as soon as he crests it, that gap is going to open up, and we're going to see much larger gaps starting to occur between these different riders. So let's see if that does continue. But Dan, it is 1 single rider, is that correct?
There are 2 riders off the front, 1 single Colombian following, and he is looking like he's starting to bog down.
Oh, wow.
To use a boxing analogy, as you get on later in the race, the punches that you land, each of them have a greater chance of putting a knockout in. So these guys are starting to throw some haymakers, some uppercuts, and things like that. So the later you get into a race that's this long, the better chance of you have knocking people out of the race.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the biggest part about the patience of cycling that is so important. When you're a patient rider, you have the upper hand when it comes later in the race. You have not used all your cards early. You've waited for everybody else to do hard efforts. You've also let the course take its toll on your competitors. So you have a lot of advantages to your tactics if you are, in fact, patient.
Exactly. And right now, you might realize that I don't know if Cedric is off the front, but you'll remember our early hero.
You're in there. Yeah.
If you'll remember our early hero from before, Cedric, he might not be in contention anymore. He might be off the front, never know. He could be one of the 2 off the front, but usually the early break usually doesn't have a great chance. Your chance is 10, 20, 30%.
Yeah,
and
very low.
That seems to be playing out today. Because cycling is a cruel mistress.
Yeah, you know, there are so many different factors that occur when you're in the race like this, and especially at this junction on this type of course. So you've got the hills themselves, then you've got some weather, and then you've got these other unknown components of, I don't know who else is in this race. I don't know what the teamwork is going to be behind me, and I also don't know who's having a good day versus a bad day, just because so many new riders are around me. So you really have to take this race at opportunistic moments and be very aggressive. And we're going to see some of our more aggressive riders right now. So what are we looking at on the road, Dan?
It looks like we've got a group of about 6 to 8 riders that are behind. I'm not sure if the lead duo has been caught.
All right, so we had 2 riders off the front at a certain point, and now we're seeing a large formation of another group at a certain point as well. So potentially those 2 riders have been absorbed into now what looks like at least 10 riders, maybe more.
There's a small group ahead of this group.
So okay, so now we have a split. So we have 2 small groups. We have one group off the front that is small, and now a larger chasing group of at least 10. Moving through.
And we're getting a call out of the numbers that are on the road. We have a 286,
okay,
130.
So we'll check our start list here once we get all those numbers in, and then we'll get you names to correspond with those numbers that are being called out from our lead vehicle. That's Alex.
They have 16
Yuli.
guys in the group. It sounds like it's all back together.
Okay, so 16 riders in this group, all working together. Dan, why don't you take a moment, check our start list here and see who those names are. And then we can get our viewers updated here on what is occurring. So 286, you said?
Yes, and there's still a foundation rider in the front.
All right, so why don't we take
Looks like the group has neutralized what's going on at the front, so it seems like it's all back together now.
All right, so a lot of action occurring here, right? And so the blow-by-blow is going to be really difficult to call from here because we just have so much separation. So, and what that means in the peloton right now, these climbs are becoming important. When they hit these climbs, it's stretching out the entire group, and the splits are occurring on these climbs. The riders are using the descents and the straight parts to try to regroup and to catch up. Now what becomes important is, does a rider with good legs miss those splits? Is he caught out, and is he forced to use some energy to bring himself back into contention with leaders? That's where pack positioning becomes absolutely crucial at this point in a race, without a lot of other teammates around, and especially when you do not know a lot of the potential for the other riders you're racing with.
It looks to have been somebody took a swing, but it was not a knockout blow. And in that case, this would be a boxing match where you take a swing and punch yourself in the mouth.
That can happen too. If you go too early, too hard, too soon, you can definitely knock yourself out of contention. Sometimes you think you have what it takes to go all the way to the line, but you underestimate your peers in the peloton, and that whole thing can go sideways really quickly for you. So let's see, it looks like we are all back together. So Dan, what is our next big climb? Is that going to be our Andrea Pinarello climb coming up?
I would think that it's going to be Gate Hill as we go from the Mott Farm Road. We're going to go to Gate Hill, which is at 94 kilometers.
Okay.
And then the Pinarello climb, if I'm looking through it. See, I don't know that term for that climb normally. That sounds like that might be a term that some other people use, and it might be known as another name.
So locally, the Andrea Pinarello climb sounds like what locals call Gate Hill. But what we're calling it here today for the Campagnolo GFNY World Championship event is the Andrea Pinarello climb. It tops out at 125 meters. That is 500 vertical feet for the Americans.
I'm just hearing we have 500 meters to the top of the hill.
All right, so that hill would be the Pinarello.
I would say it's the Pinarello, yes.
Okay, so we are already on the Pinarello climb and only 500 feet to the top.
500 meters. They just passed the sign that says 500 meters to the top. They are still together.
Okay, so that climb does flatten out a bit towards the top, so if they are all together, we expect them to stay together. Now the descent will become really interesting and very important. Riders who are comfortable riding their bikes and can get downhill quickly and easily, they will be the ones who will be comfortable and not using up energy. Those who are uncomfortable, they will gap wheels in front of them, then they will have to use more energy to chase back into this group.
And the roads are drying out. We have sunshine here, and we also have sunshine from what I'm seeing, but it's still a wet road, but there's sunshine happening up there, so that means that the roads are drying out, so it'll be easier time for them on the descent. Mike Marguerite's in the group.
Oh, great. So Mike Marguerite is a name we were talking about much earlier in the broadcast, but we had not been saying his name very much lately. Marguerite is one of those riders who has a lot of potential, and he is a former winner here at the Campagnolo GFNY World Championship event. Marguerite has shown good form this year, even though he is a new dad now. Congratulations to Mike. But he's using those dad legs for some extra power here today, putting himself in this front selection as we're definitely into the final third of what it looks like a very challenging and large peloton group. We do expect this group though to be whittled down as we start to hit some of our other rated climbs throughout the day.
We do have Louis Lemos of the Israeli Cycling Academy is up there, along with 286, who is Octavio Segura. Well, his name gets cut off, so you know, sorry. I'm going to say Octavio Otero from Medellin, so a Colombian is up there.
Yep. So Octavio Otero from Medellin. These Colombian riders from Medellin are always very strong. So we just witnessed in the Tour of California this week, Igor Bernal, he was super fantastic. And we also saw a few other Colombian riders in that race doing a lot of very aggressive style of climbing, floating up these grades. Riders who are hailing from Medellin, coming here to New York, they're coming from altitude, and Medellin is higher up than where we are, so they are going to carry with them a bit more high altitude fitness. Hopefully that'll translate well for them, but it also hopefully the local riders who are in this race will be able to stay with them as we come across.
We have two Colombians up in the front group. We have number 243, who is Dieter Egli. So we definitely have a couple Colombians up at the front. So that could be a team dynamic. It sounds like they're from different areas of Colombia, though, so I do not know if they are racing together.
So one of the riders I'm wondering if is in here is Kevin Bouchard-Hall. Kevin won the Rasputas race in Vermont last week. That is a very hard gravel event up there. And Kevin Bouchard-Hall, he actually was on the podium at Cyclocross Nationals this year, the USA Cyclocross Nationals. Kevin Bouchard-Hall rode really well. You know, he was definitely one of the contenders here overall. We have not said his name yet today, but having won that really hard gravel event in Vermont last week, he comes into this race as sort of one of those underdogs that we don't know about. If we get his number into the mix here that we've been trying to figure out, I think he could be definitely a contender. Now, Bouchard-Hall's style of riding is maybe not as punchy as some of the other Colombians that he is with, so that could be a challenge for him. But if Bouchard-Hall makes his way into this group, hopefully he will be one that can stick with the riders over some of these harder climbs at the end. So Dan, let's see if we can get some...
We have somebody dropping off the pace here.
Okay, so we're losing some riders. So the pace is continuing to stay high. It sounds like a lot of our professional and Olympic athletes are really driving the pace so far, and that's really going to start to affect the numbers.
We have a number 203, Roman Laboutine, falling off the pace due to a flat tire.
Oh man, so
you're going to have a lot of flats today because it's wet out, and that picks up debris from the road. That's just going to get into your tires, and that's going to wreak havoc with any sort of like flats or punctures along the road.
Did Gavi make that group?
I'm not sure if Gavi made the group or not.
Okay.
Gavi has not been training at the level he's been training at in years past. He's a new dad.
Yeah.
So that is part of the amateur racing. You can definitely scout your competition by who's recently had kids, because usually they're not sleeping a lot, and usually they're not really getting out on their bike very much.
That's right. They're not sleeping a lot.
A lot of times in amateur racing, there's a gap when somebody has a child and when the child goes to school, when they're just not very fast.
Yeah.
Because other things are taking up their time,
Sleep.
and rightly so.
Yeah, sleep is important for cyclists. You know, at any level, you're going to have athletes who, you know, putting in the time on the bike is really important, but then this time off the bike is equally important. And rest and recovery is something that only a few of the athletes here today will have the opportunity to realize. You know, and some of those new dads, they're not going to be able to realize those gains.
Absolutely not. I mean, if you really want to be a great amateur rider, the best thing to be is single and unemployed, but not everybody can do that. So you have lives, you have things to do. A lot of these guys have jobs. A lot of these guys work on Wall Street. They work other places.
Wow.
There's just no time to have you know, you can't have everything all at once and be a bike racer. You do have to make those sort of certain sacrifices.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's here today at the Campagnolo GFNY World Championship event in New York City. We have such an amazing international peloton here that I think we're going to start to see that really show through at the end of our race today. Brazil represents the second largest contingency, second only to the United States, and the U.S. really carrying that torch because we are in the U.S., so it's very easy for people to come in. But Brazil and Colombia are very strong on the start list, and they brought themselves a whole lot of really talented riders. So we'll be looking to those nations and those representatives to bring home a lot of the final finishing kicks here. Dan, what are we looking at right now?
We are definitely looking at rolling détente right now. They are between climbs. They are eyeing each other. The guys that know one another, the guys that are from New York and know each other and have raced with each other before, they're definitely going to be looking at Mike Marguerite. If Mike does any sort of move, they're going to be on top of it right away, because you just can't risk Mike getting any sort of gap, especially at this time, especially with the history that he has with this race. If Mike attacks, you're going to want to be right on his wheel, because it's going to be much easier to get there. You don't have to bridge after that. It'll be just much better. And if Mike's going to attack, you're pretty much guaranteed that he's going to work, because sometimes you'll have people that attack and they're just going to deflate like a used clown balloon. You know, there can be no help up there. So you know he's a solid clown balloon. He's turning it into a puppy. He's making all sorts of things up there.
So when when Mike wants to go hard, he will commit to that move. And what I like seeing right now is that we have not actually said Mike's name because he's been aggressive and off the front so far. You know, we've said Mike's name because because he's been really patient.
And he did have Conrad up at the front of the race for him for the first half of the race, so he really didn't have to do anything.
That's right. So Mike had no obligation to pull because he had a teammate in the early breakaway. That was all the way back at the George Washington Bridge through Piermont, past the Runcible Spoon, and into Nyack. So we have an update, Dan?
We do have Ismael Colada Acosta, who is a local strongman. One of the favorites for me before the race started. Ismael is just super strong. He can get into a break. He can win a field sprint.
Really?
And he can get into a break and win. He is just one of those really strong Peter Sagan types.
Okay.
Without the wheelies or anything like that. But he is a super strong rider, and they are going to be watching him. The guys that are from New York are going to be watching Ismael very closely.
Right. So those other riders that react to that actually clues in the riders from other countries who may not know him. They're going.
True.
The other riders are going to say, "Oh, well, if this many other riders are paying attention to this single one, then we're going to keep him on our radar." That sounds like what could be happening right now. So just to clarify, Dan, we've got Ismael right off the front by himself.
He's not. He's in the group. It's Ismael. It's going to be Mike Marguerite.
Oh, I see.
You have Lewis from the Israeli Cycling Academy. So that's a professional racer that's up in this group.
Right.
So these are all people who are going to have eyes on one another. So this is the waiting game. They're going to see who's going to be going, see who's going to be attacking. Yes, that looks like that's Ismael right there.
Okay.
He's off the back a little bit, and they're screaming at him, encouraging him. So Ismael could be getting dropped.
It looks like that.
He is with the New York Cycle Club.
So the rider of Peter Sagan.
Peter Sagan is getting dropped from the break, everybody. So remember that analogy I just made? Forget it.
I'd just like to point out, Dan, you totally jinxed him.
Exactly.
You were like, oh, this guy. Boom. No. Done. Oh, well.
Oh, hold on. We've got an update.
We have a call coming in.
Hello, Alex.
Hey, how you doing?
I see that.
I was wondering if you guys are catching up. I'm not following what's going with you. Or are you following on what's going with us?
We're kind of close. I see. We're at Acme. I see Ismael is dropping out of the lead group. And Marguerite's in the front, correct?
Marguerite's in the front. I believe we also have Piqueta. I believe we have Corridor. So we have a few of the previous winners up in that lead group.
Already through it.
Corridor.
Dan Craven is back. He was trying to catch up, but I don't think that's going to happen.
What happened to Dan Craven?
100 kilometers.
He's at his
Almost
limit.
100
I think
kilometers.
he just left it too long.
Yeah, and
So now we're moving up again to the front here. Sorry about the shaking, but we're going up Cheesecoat. I just wanted to give you guys an update. So I think the winners, the podium is definitely going to come out of this group up front.
Yeah.
We still got, how many guys do we have up there, Oli, still? About 15 guys still up.
15 guys. And do you have Lewis from Israel Cycling Academy?
Yes, I believe. Wait, do we have Luis from, yes, he is in there.
Okay.
So, and he looked really good.
Okay,
Good.
great.
Okay, great. Do you have Victor Grass from Rockstar? Is there any Rockstar or Foundation guys up there?
There was a foundation. We have foundation guys up there, right, Oli? One just got dropped. Oh, that's NYCC. That's right.
That's Ismael.
We do have a Rockstar. Yeah. Mike Marguerite's in there. Who's there from Rockstar? Do you know?
We don't know.
We'll figure it out. Trying to figure it out. These guys are really hammering it down the hill now. So.
Fantastic. When you know, you can text me the numbers and I'll look them up.
Great. Thank you.
All right, great.
Bye.
All right, so that was our live report from the vehicles out there. Alex, our co-reporter out there, he is letting us know that we have a group of around 15 riders. They are on Cheesecoat climb, so that means we are officially at our 100-kilometer point in our race, the final third of our 161 Ks for the day. So they're very quickly going to come to the top of Cheesecoat because that is a very short climb. So even though it is on our list of notable climbs, it's only 75 meters in height and it's very short. It's only around 3 Ks long. And then once we get through that, we're gonna hit our 4th aid station at 109 Ks, but it sounds like the pace is high.
The pace is high. The attacks should start coming to winnow down what's going on. Luis Lemos from Israel Cycling Academy is still there. They just dropped Ismael Colada, who I described as a Peter Sagan. So he is now not a Peter Sagan. We're going to have to downgrade him. But still a strong racer. So that is showing that they are definitely putting heat on at the front. We do have a Rockstar Games rider up there. My assumption would be that it is Victor Grass, who was second last year. So we have Victor, we have Mike Marguerite, local strongman, Luis Lemos from Israel Cycling Academy. We have a bunch of contenders that are up there at the front of the race.
Right. And remember that Lemus has won a GFNY event before. He won GFNY Cozumel right before the Rio Olympics in 2016, where he represented Mexico. Last year, his cousin, Flavio de Luna, the Gran Fonda, the GFNY champ in Mexico City in 2016 and Cozumel in 17. He played a strong role at GFNY New York City last year with a long attack and solo ride after Bear Mountain. So right now that is exactly where we are. Lemus has a lot of experience and teammates and friends and family even who have experience with what is happening where we are on our course right now. So you're looking for attacks, looking for tactics, looking for riders just try to stay in contention. Looks like we've got
a lot
roads.
of action on the road. We've got wet roads. They're in the shade where it's not drying out due to the sun.
Gotcha.
So it looks like we're on a descent because we're moving pretty quickly and things are splitting up. The pressure is just being applied. The pressure is going to be applied from now till the line. So now it's desperate moments. If you lose the front, you are going to have an incredibly hard time getting back on.
Yeah, dropping a wheel at this point in the race is a really quick end to your day. When you come out of the draft of a rider in front of you, obviously you lose a lot of the benefits of being in the peloton, of course, and you actually have to ride faster than the group in front of you to catch back on. So, you know, some basic physics start to get at you, and if you haven't timed your nutrition properly, if you haven't timed your tactics well, you use up too much energy too early, or you simply didn't train well enough to be here in this part of the race, now's the time that it's going to start to show. We're going to whittle this group of 15 down even further, and we're going to try to see who the names are that are going to emerge from this front group.
Getting dropped now is just going to be a bucket full of bummer for you because you're just not going to be able to find it. When the race is going fast, you have to put in so much more energy to go that 1 mile per hour faster just because of the CDA, because of weather, because of the speed. It's harder to go fast when things are going fast.
CDA, define that for our viewers, Dan.
CDA is basically your frontal area. I forget what CDA exactly stands for. It's sciencey talk. Coefficient
of
drag. I think it is. So your CDA is basically how much wind is hitting you and how fast you can go through the wind.
You just like saying letters.
I like saying letters, and it makes me sound smart. When you ask me what the terms are, Gabe, and I don't know, I sound like an idiot. But I am an idiot, but I do know that CDA makes a difference.
You know all these technical terms. You're thinking all this stuff all the time.
It's
you
true.
Should see his notes here, by the way, folks.
I have extensive, copious notes. Now, we're seeing a foundation rider up at the front here. And I'm trying to find out who that is. I would love to be able to put a number on him.
He just looks hot.
Hot in a warmth, you know.
Yeah, so the high temperature today here in New York City is going to be 81
We're seeing Mike
degrees.
Marguerite on the road. That's him in the strictly shorts.
All right, great.
And then there's Israeli Cycling Academy, and that is the Rockstar Games. I do believe that is Victor Gross.
All right, cool.
So we're going to have a party from last year coming back again. So we've got somebody going off the front.
Yeah, we've got attacks coming off the front right now.
Somebody's attacking on this little rise.
Yeah, just using every little undulation in the that they have available to them. And as the wind gusts start to pick up down here, we're sure that they're going to start to feel some of that at the front as well. Again, it's going to be headwind coming back into our final few kilometers. So even though we are seeing single riders start to hit the front of the race really hard and aggressively, they have to remember they're by themselves heading into a headwind, and they still have Dykeman Hill coming up.
We do have a foundation rider off the front. That's a local rider who's going to know exactly what these roads are like. If I had to guess, I would say is Will Downing because he's just been on fire lately.
Oh, okay.
I don't know Will as well as I would know some other foundation guys, as far as Ralph Pallmeyer and other guys like that. But I do think this is Will Downing, just because the shape would indicate that this would be somebody who is a climber, and that's definitely Will Downing.
All right.
So he's got probably 200 meters. So everyone behind is playing a little bit of poker. We've got two chasers.
Wow, he is decimating.
We got a
this
CCB,
field.
and we do have someone else.
Yeah. So we've got a real aggressive moment happening right here. We are between major climbs, but we are coming up on the Rampano.
I'm not sure of the name of that. Yeah, I'm not sure of the name of that. Where do we have that?
Ramapo?
Ramapo. Yes, I know Ramapo. I live right by Ramapo. There's an aid station there.
Right.
They're not going to be stopping. They do get fed at these. You can get bottles while you're on the road if you're in the lead group. One of the advantages of being really strong. Now we have a group of 3 at the front. And we're trying to get who is up at the front. We do think it's Will from Foundation.
So now we're seeing basically the composition that we saw last year. Last year we only saw a few riders sprint for the finish here in Fort Lee, New Jersey, and that we're seeing that reduction in peloton size occurring immediately before our eyes. Just 1 minute ago we had 10 riders together. We are now down to 3 riders off the front. Dan is listening for numbers, and we will relay that information as quickly as possible over to you as well. So Dan, we're going to grab those numbers from Alex if possible.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out who is at the front. Race radio is a little broken up at the moment,
Fuzzy.
but we'll find out who's there.
Mountains happening here, but we're gonna reach out to Alex in the vehicle that is taking this camera shot right now and see who these 4 riders are. So I'm counting 4 in the shot right now.
We do have 4. We have
There's
5.
5.
It looks like there's been a regrouping at the front.
We're doing some selective camera angles at the moment, it looks like, as that group is now ballooned back up to
the group is back together. That is definitely Victor Gross.
Victor Gross there. Let's see if anybody else comes into our shot here.
We do have a group of about 7 right now.
Okay, so our group is 7.
Victor will have the pink socks on, so you'll know who that is. You will know that Mike Marguerite is a taller, very thin rider. He is not in camera view right now, but I would be assuming that he is somewhere near Victor. Okay. So the Foundation rider has been brought back, so that is the group back together again. We're not sure exactly of the size. It looks to be about 5 to 10 riders.
Yeah, I mean, so the riders are now 3 across the road, which means they are clearly slowing down. That gives other riders who maybe missed that initial split an opportunity to catch back on to this group, recover a bit. I hope that all these riders are remembering that they still have 1 major climb coming up, as well as a few other notes on our cue sheet, which means that there are some significant rollers coming through. But it looks like our group is actually ballooned, honestly, Dan. I'm counting almost 20 riders there.
I see a group back together. It seems like the attacks were not decisive. It looks like Victor Gross is following the move off the front, and I'm not sure who that rider who is initiating it.
But some of the riders that were just attacking are continuing.
And then we have Israeli Cycling Academy.
Okay.
So we have Lewis coming up.
So Lewis Limas is.
And there's Mike Marguerite. He's still in the mix, as is Ismail Collada, who is back.
Oh, your buddy.
Yes. We have the Foundation rider back at the back, who I assume is Will Downing.
Yep. So Will is there. So all back together right now with around 20 riders. Still looking for who the numbers are of the riders off the front or who are being aggressive. But
there look to be 3 near the rear that are just getting a little desperate at the back, but they're clawing their way back in.
Sure.
So that looks pretty brutal back there.
This is a great opportunity for those riders to get themselves back into the mix as the peloton has slowed up. They are looking at each other, knowing that they have some other professional riders, including riders who have represented their countries in the Olympic Games. They know that they need to be patient. They need to force those other riders to do a lot of the work now.
We've got 1K to Cheesecoat, as according to the sign along the side of the road, because that's going to be a decisive moment. So that's going to be about a minute and a half from now. Right now, you have these 3 riders catching on to the back, riding their hearts out just to get punched in the mouth as they get up to the front climb. So that could be something that knocks them right out.
So we were mistaken before. When we were talking to Alex, I believe that we thought we were already on Cheesecoat, but it sounds like we are just approaching it based on the signage on the road. So we are now officially coming into our 100-kilometer mark, which means that the rollers in front of Cheesecoat in the 90-kilometer range became really impactful. Let's see if this 3-kilometer climb of Cheesecoat will impact this race even further, reducing this group from the 15 that are currently there.
Yes. Sounds good. All right. We have a group that's together, so they are all biding their time until the climb comes up.
Sure, and it looks like we are hitting that climb at this point. So again, going back to Cheesecoat, it starts off a little steep and then it flattens out. There's actually a little bit of a descent in the middle of the climb before it ramps back to a really steady state. Looks like it is around 3 or 4%. And so that 4% can really start to grind on the legs. You can do that in the big chainring if you're feeling really good, but you can also be stuck if you are not feeling good. And that's the really hard part about a 4-degree climb, where you need to decide which gear you're going to choose and how you're going to approach it. Now you can make that even harder on yourself by being in these groups that are starting to become more aggressive and punchy. You have a few riders in here who are going to continue to be aggressive, riders who are going to continue to hit this race hard to get rid of some of the riders who are dangling off the back of this group. Even as we speak, we see a few 3 or 4 riders who look like they're already in trouble, and we have not yet seen any attacks coming off the front of our group as we have hit the 3 or 4% section of Cheesecoat. In here, Mexican Luis Lemos of the Israeli Cycling Academy. Again, a lot of experience. He has won a GFNY competition in previous years. Good thing I've got my GFNY sunnies on to help protect me from our sunshine that is poking through. Feels to me, sitting in the booth right now, that we are seeing our warm weather poke through. I'm optimistic that we are going to have good weather for the finish of our Campagnolo GFNY World Championship event here in New York City. We started off the bridge here today at 7 a.m. and Bill Ash took the early lead by himself. He was joined shortly thereafter by a few other riders as they hit into Piermont, and then shortly thereafter Bill Ash crashed and he was no longer in contention. Those early groups changed up a few times before they hit some of the starter climbs like Rockland Lake, Haverstraw, and our Stony Point aid station number 2. By the time we got to Bear Mountain, our Frenchman Cedric Haas had established himself as an outside contender. Cedric started with bib number 1,213, which means that he had a phenomenal ride early on, but since that point in time, since Bear Mountain, Cedric Haas has no longer been a factor, or at least a number that we have talked about. So he may have used too much energy too early, because Cedric Haas is actually the first rider over the top of Bear Mountain earlier in the day. But now we've got all the former professional and early heavy hitters back in contention. These riders are currently at kilometer marker 100, which is the Cheesecoat climb. The Cheesecoat climb is on our cue sheets as one of the more decisive ones, because it is a constant 3 to 4%. That grade can really hammer a rider and really make their lives difficult. So we'll check back with our screens and see what's happening here. Try to pull my GFNY shades off and see if I can tell what the cameras are seeing over here on our screen. It looks like the riders are going very quickly off the descent of the Cheesecoat climb. So following Cheesecoat climb, there is an aid station. It is not the final aid station, but there is one available to them at 109 kilometers. The moto has caught back up to our group, so it actually looks like our group is coming together. And the wind is picking up for us here, so we're going to try to keep ourselves all in one piece down here in Fort Lee. And it looks like the peloton is all in one piece themselves as they are coming off of Cheesecoat, grinding up there. Long hard climbs where you're definitely going to start to see some of the professional athletes in this peloton make their move, try to do everything they can to get rid of some of the riders who are suffering right now on this climb. We're going to try to see if I can tap into any of the feeds that are currently happening out here. I actually, thinking of that, let's make life easy and just grab what Dan is talking about here. So I'm listening to Alex right now. So listening to that, the other feed, it sounds like they were actually on the descent part of Cheesecoat, so they've not actually hit the main 3 to 4% grade yet. Once they do hit that 3 to 4% grade on cheese coat, that is actually in fact going to be the decisive moment of this race. So as a rider, you have to decide which gear am I going to choose and when am I going to put my effort in. Really strong riders will be smart. They will wait until the final 1 kilometer of this climb to really punch it hard, because everybody will already have been on the rivet. If I were in this race and I had any semblance of fitness, that's certainly what I would do. I would float around 5th wheel if I could, making sure that I'm keeping riders that I know are a threat in check, or at least in front of me, and then I would wait for that final 1 kilometer and attack them, or at least contribute to the pace setting over the top of the climb, because I know that that would shake off a few stragglers who are suffering at their threshold. Once you get over 100 kilometers into a race, you know that you have the final few kilometers and that everybody is suffering. They have already ridden to Bear Mountain. They've already done 3 major climbs in our Campagnolo GFNY World Championship event here today. They are currently on the 4th major climb, which is cheese coat on the major part on the 3 to 4% grade. That means that, again, a lot of decisive moments here. Now, if we see just 3 or 4 riders come out of this, that I think will be a final selection for the group, because if they've shown that good of fitness at this point in the race, that would be relative to the other races that we've seen at GFNY World Championships in years past, where just a select group makes it all the way to Fort Lee, New Jersey. Dan, welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing our coffee run. I
did make a coffee
that.
run.
We have some delicious Colombian coffee here at GFNY this year.
Cafe to GNFY.
Cafe to
Purchase.
GFNY.
Purchase
you can
freely.
buy that at GFNY.com. Thank you to those sponsors for making that possible. All the swag and things that you see us wearing here today are available for sale. You could also purchase yourself a beautiful green cycling kit and become part of the GFNY cycling family.
Or you can just enter the race. You get all this for free. You
That's
get
right.
wine, you get coffee. It covers all the bases for
That's
anything
right.
that you want to do as a
Entering
cyclist.
one of these events is a prize in and of itself. You walk
It's
away
true.
with a lot of goodies here, and of course you're in New York City, one of the best cities in the world, and you can bring your family. They won't be mad at you.
They will love to come here.
They will love to come here.
Okay.
So Dan, do we have some text updates?
We do have some text upgrades. We have 5 in the front group, then a 50-meter gap, then 6 in the second group. So that looks like that's old. It looks like it's all Grupo Compacto of about 11 right now.
I would say so.
So that looks like we've still got the major players here. We still have Mike Marguerite. I'm not sure if Pachetta is in here. I will have to find out, because that would be a very important thing to know, and that is something that we're going to find out for you. So that will be coming forth shortly.
All right. So a lot of action was happening here while Dan was away, and as I was saying, I'm waiting for the final 1K of this climb. So I now live in the Lehigh Valley of Pennsylvania, near the Valley Preferred Cycling Center in Trexlertown.
A real cycling hotbed.
And we have a weekly ride. It's called the Derby, and there is a climb on the Derby called Topton Hill. It's definitely a big chain ring. It is not nearly as hard as this climb, but the parallel to that ride is it's already been really fast up until the point you get to Topton. When you hit Topton, you sit and you let the over-eager riders do their undoing. And once they've done their undoing, you attack them at the top, and then you hold the gap to the finishing sprint.
It's always great when somebody takes themselves out for you.
Exactly.
I adore that.
And smart riders know that there's always somebody in the peloton at this point in the race who thinks they're stronger than they actually are, and they undo themselves in a spectacular fashion. It's just a matter of seeing when and where that type of race dynamic will occur here today at the Campagnolo GFNY World Championships. I think it'll be happening shortly, but there is another test for the legs coming up, and that will be our final Dyckman Hill. Dyckman Hill climb is a very challenging climb. It goes up, it goes down. That means that you can't get into a rhythm at all. You must be fresh if you want to be competitive when you get to the Dyckman Hill climb. Dan, what are you hearing over race radio?
I'm hearing from the moto that we're going into, there's a very steep series of climbs that go through sort of the suburbs that we're out here. There's some very steep residential hills that we go through. Little, like, short, sharp, very great places if you're feeling great to take an opportunistic attack. and head up off the road.
Exactly right. But also, similarly speaking, if you're feeling terrible, this is a very terrible moment of your day. You know, these are moments where you're chasing, or you're just grinding a gear that you're not comfortable with at all, because it is very hard, and it's going to be a long day for you at this point. And it's also heartbreaking, as Dan was speaking about earlier today. You've made it this far. You've gone clearly over 2/3 of the way with the front selection at one of the largest cycling races in the world, and now you're coming undone. So while you've accomplished a lot into this point, we're actually interested in the final here, and everybody in this group, of course, wants to be a champion of the Campagnolo GFNY World Championship event in New York.
If you've got a group of 10 out of 5,000, that's a pretty good selection, but if you get dropped out of the group now, it's the Trail of Tears home. It's really going to be murder, because you just don't have anyone to work with. You're isolated, you're alone. We see a rider off the back right now, and that is just a brutal place to be. You can see the people right in front of you. You can almost reach out and grab them, but you just can't bring them back. So I don't want to say it's game over here, but yeah, the music on the Pac-Man game is starting to play. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Because every time a rider like that has to chase, they're in the big chain ring, they're in a very low, hard gear, and that means they're burning up a lot of energy, just pushing through the wind that's in front of them, desperately trying to get back up to the
All right, we have a
riders
group
who are
up front
already
that's a
strong.
split from the group. We're looking at a group of 1, 2, 3, 7 that are off the front. Victor Gross is there. I'm going to say that's Pineda. That is Mike Marguerite. That is Will Downing from Foundation. And off the front, this could be the group that takes it to the finish right here. This is a desperate moment of the race. If they get together and they work together, this could be a great moment for them. This would not be a good time to play. That is Mike Marguerite right there. And it looks like he's got a teammate there. So that does not look good.
Yeah, so there's a lot of action happening here right now off the front of the field. And we've got some race attacks going off. One off the front. Dan, have you heard who that is?
I think that is the Foundation rider, and I'm believing that is Will Downing.
Will Downing off the front right now, ladies and gentlemen.
I think.
So we're not sure. We're confirming exactly who that is, but Dan here, he is our local superstar, knows everybody and anything. He looks at those shorts and he knows exactly what you're doing and how you're feeling for your day. And he thinks it's Will Downing, so we're going to wait for race radio.
That is definitely the Foundation rider off the front. He is trying again. He tried before and he was brought back, but that did winnow down the break to a bit. He's probably 5-10 seconds off a group of about 6.
So I'm going to just throw it out there one more time that patience is a virtue in cycling. And for a rider like Will Downing right now to be hitting this race so hard, so repeatedly, but not have counterattacks coming from Olympic riders in the group, to me means that Will is doing too much work too early. The experience and patience of the Mexican rider Luis Lemus is absolutely outstanding right now. He has done very little work on the absolute front, but he's maintained himself in all these decisive splits, so he's doing very little work, and he's not doing more work than he needs to at any given point. However, no, we have countering that Will Downing and some of these CCB riders that we're seeing on the screen right now doing a lot.
These are the racers
work
that chased this racer down before and became a group of 3 at the front, so they are definitely marking him very carefully. They're not giving him a lot of leeway. So when he does attack, they are reacting within a minute or two.
Sure. And have you gotten race numbers for these 3?
I have not gotten race numbers from the moto.
Okay. So we're going to work on getting these 3 riders who have, again, split themselves off the front. We know one of them is Will Downing, and we're going to see who the CCB rider is. I'm very interested to see which one of those it is. It is not a CCB rider?
I don't believe that's a CCB rider because I'm looking at the shorts and that looks like that might be not CCB.
Oh, okay.
That might be, I think that is one of the Colombian teams, so I'm not exactly who that is.
So looking at our screen, you know, we have relative visibility, let's put it that way. So we're going to do what we can here to identify our 3 riders. Again, very aggressive style of riding here by Will Downing. Dan, in your experience in New York City cycling scene, is Will always this aggressive in races?
Foundation is a very aggressive team. Will isn't going to sit in and wait till the end.
Okay.
That is just not the proper game for him to play, because if he waits too long, his strength is a long, strong effort. So definitely going to try to get away. Definitely going to try to put some distances like he's doing right now. He's definitely playing to his strengths. So the race is still able to hold together. So it makes it seem like he's not able to break people right now, but he's definitely trying.
Yeah, but what I'm seeing is that he's just towing everybody along.
Yes.
You know, and I guess I'm just confused by the tactical decision there of a strong rider like that. If you're at a point in a bike race where you're over 100 kilometers in and you're towing a select group along by yourself, that seems like you're clearly displaying that you have fitness, but why would you be using all that fitness right now when you're not on a climb and when other riders are clearly sitting in, drinking water, eating? You know, like, he's doing so much work right now. I'm having a hard time understanding that decision making on his behalf.
It's true. And Will came to the sport a couple years ago, so this might be some inexperience showing. And we do have the most experienced racer who's going to be in there in this New York City group is going to be Mike Marguerite.
Okay.
So he's been racing for 10, 15 years. He's won at a lot of different levels. So he is going to be sort of the wise old sage of this sort of group.
Absolutely.
And it plays into his hands, just like you were saying. If Will knocks himself out there and basically takes himself out of the race, that is the perfect opportunity for him just to be able to counter something when it comes back. We have Victor Gross following whoever is off the front right now, so they have a little slight gap. So now it's just these little attacks, little moments where they're bringing up pace.
So look, I know everybody here today is wearing the same green jersey, but one thing you can pick out if you're at home, look for that blue butt panel of the rider that's in here. That is a rider from the Israeli Cycling Academy, Mexican rider Luis Lemus. Lemus is an Olympian. He's always fourth or fifth wheel. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. I think that type of patience and just following, floating, that's what you're looking for here, especially at this point in the race. Lewis clearly has pedigree, and he's been a professional for a long time. He's currently on a team that has been selected for the Giro d'Italia, so even though he didn't make that selection, he's still at that level, right? And that level is racing here right now. I think we should be looking for that blue rear panel of his shorts to be a factor for us later on here today.
And he is definitely a rider who knows what kind of effort he's capable of.
Yeah.
He knows that if it gets to the end, we have an hour and a half left.
About.
Maybe an hour 15. He knows that if he wants to do a 45-minute effort, he's going to gauge how far he is from the line and put that effort in. So some of these guys maybe are trying to split things up. Lewis knows what he can do. He knows what he's capable of. And he's probably going to be marked pretty heavily because he is a professional rider, but he is going to definitely play to his strengths. Wait to see what happens. He's heard a little bit about the course. He doesn't know the course as well as everyone else does, so he could get surprised there by a Mike Marguerite, by a Victor Gross, who is going to attack when they know, because they know what they can do also. Everybody has this sort of picture in their mind of the perfect race for them.
Okay, yeah.
So they know what they're going to do. Maybe they want to do a 10-minute effort. Maybe they want to do a half-hour effort. Maybe they want to do, like Mike Marguerite, a 2-hour effort. So they're all playing that sort of game. And right now they're looking into, all right, if things stay together and things get together like this, how do I play this? I do know that Ismail is in the group, and you're not going to want to bring Ismail to the line because he is a sprinter and he is a strong, fast finisher.
Right.
So I would expect Ismail from now on to just be covering moves. I wouldn't expect him to be initiating any moves.
Yeah, but we also saw Ismail had a little bit of an issue even just leading into the cheese coat climb. And so I'll be interested to see if Ismail makes it over this Dykeman Hill, then yes, absolutely Ismail will be a factor for the finishing kick, because Ismail can clearly out sprint a rider like Mike Marguerite.
Yes.
So if we look back to 2016, I believe, that's the year that Mike Marguerite won this race.
2015, yes.
2015, excuse me.
Yep.
And in 15, Mike won by himself, and he used his skill set. He created that ideal situation that you were just talking about for himself. And so what Mike did there, he was patient, he had good fitness, but now we're a few years beyond that. He's a new dad. He's displayed that he is capable of riding with these top riders here, but we'll have to see if he will be able to repeat that situation for himself, because he knows that if he goes to the line with a rider like Ismail, he's going to lose. And I would also assume that our Israeli Cycling Academy rider Lemus is equally talented at his sprint game as well. So there are a few riders in here right now that must try to force another split if they want to give themselves an opportunity at the win.
There are definitely riders who are looking at the group and the group of people that they know, and they're definitely working out the scenarios. Right now, this is, all right, I can't let him go. I can't let him go. I need to go with certain people. People who know the race and who have raced this race before. Victor, if he's in his mind right now, he's like, well, Ismail's probably not going to go, but I've got to get rid of him. I can't let Marguerite go. I can't let Luis Lemus go. So I have to watch what's going on.
Right.
If these things happen before, I have a game plan. If I'm Victor or someone else, I have a game plan and the way I want it to come out. But if somebody puts the race to me, I have to react to it because it's getting down to the final kilometers and you just can't allow things to get away from you. So you're definitely working out the scenarios. It's like a lot of chess going on and you're like working out, how do I do this? What do I counter? Who do I follow? It's getting to be the moments of the race where you just watch everybody very closely. And that's where somebody can slip away too, somebody you don't know.
Absolutely, and a moment to slip away is actually on these descents. You know, so we talk a lot about going uphill because that is what we are familiar with when we watch other cycling races on TV. But in a race like this, the descents can actually become very, very interesting.
Absolutely.
Looks like we have a little bit of a race update, Dan. What did you find over there?
They're saying that we have in the lead is Pachetta and Lemos and Marguerite +1. So It sounds like they say there's a group of 4. So we are looking at, it looks like a fast descent. We're following the motos right now.
Okay, so let's clarify that. So it sounds like Riccardo Pachetta of Italy. He's last year's winner. He has made a decisive split. He's also now with the 2015 champion Mike Marguerite, and Lemus is in there. So that blue rear panel that I was just speaking about has made that, and they have also added one more to that group. So all the top 4 riders essentially, as far as tactics that we've been speaking about up until this point, have now aligned themselves in a break.
We just had somebody go off wide as they're going down that big wet turn, so we're down 1. It looks like it's a group that might be about 5 or 6. Maybe there's been some attacks, but this is down one of the fast descents, and this is the worst time to descend. When you're going down and it's sunny out and there's shade. In the shade is the wet areas of the course. So you're going from dry to wet to dry to wet. So if you misjudge those moments, you're just going to slide off and you're just going to, you know, take your tail and butter it and go across the road and end up in the ditch. It could be terrible moments. But
I love that phrase.
At least it's wet.
Yeah, at least it's wet.
You don't want to crash on a dry road. If you can crash on a wet road, that's
sandpaper.
great. You know, it's a slip and slide to a certain extent.
Absolutely.
You're using your skin, but not as bad as a dry.
Right.
It looks like we've got the group all together again. This looks like it's like a lull in the action. We have Victor Gross. We have everybody else.
So,
I'm believing that that's Pachetta right there.
Okay.
Pachetta. So everybody, the gang's all back together again.
Right, sure. So, you know, a phrase of this event itself is La corsa la fanno I corridori. And that means the racer makes the race. And I think that's what we're going to see happen here today. Riders who are going to be aggressive and use their tactics and their strong suits to give themselves an advantage at the end is going to actually be the winner here. And that's a beautiful thing about this style of racing. Again, you know, it's not categorized. It is open to anybody who wants to sign up. And of course, this race is a little bit different. You know, riders who have shown prior success in any of the other GFNY world events, those riders are
number 108 isn't in there, saying Kevin Bouchard Hall is up.
Oh my goodness. So, okay, like an hour ago, I don't know, a while ago, I was like, outside threat, Kevin Bouchard Hall, because he won the Rasputas race in Vermont last week. That is a really cool gravel event up there. Kevin won it. Kevin has also been on the podium at USA Cycling's Masters Cyclocross Championships this year. Kevin has made the split. He is he says he's from Colorado Springs. He actually lives in upstate New York. Kevin is great. You know, Kevin is one of those riders that could align himself with somebody like a Marguerite. You know, he's very similar to a Marguerite in a way, but he's also an unknown factor. So some of these other riders from New York City may not know Bouchard Hall, but Bouchard Hall definitely a rider that can take it to himself. Looks like another rider, Jurgen Moriels of Belgium.
So we have a Belgian up near the
Wow,
front.
so a Belgian has put himself into the mix. If you are any fan of cycling, as I'm sure you are because you're watching a live stream of cycling on your Sunday afternoon, you know that Belgium carries a tremendous historic pedigree of rider. Almost no rider out of Belgium is a soft rider. I spent a summer racing in Belgium, and it was one of the most horrendous sprints for 40th place I would ever do.
They do terrible things to you over there, don't they? They really do.
They really, really do.
It's not fair.
But to see a Belgian make the split here, again, we're going to see a rider who's not afraid of mixing it up with other riders, but it's also another new face for the peloton here today. A great example of the international component of Campagnolo GFNY World Championships in New York.
And really, Belgians, this is sort of their territory too. This is short, sharp hills. You think of Belgium and you think it's flat. It's not flat. It's rolling, it's sharp hills. The hills aren't long, but they're short and they're straight up, and they're usually made of cobbles. Fun fact, Gabe, what we usually consider to be cobbles, say in Paris-Roubaix or other places, are not cobbles. They are officially sets. Because
Sets?
S-E-T-T.
Oh.
This is a road term. You're going to learn something today.
Yeah.
Sets are quarried rock, whereas cobbles, you just pick it out of the road or you pick it out of the stream and you put it on there.
Oh, wow.
So if they cut those things at all,
Yeah.
that's a set.
Wow.
But we call them cobbles because it sounds a lot better.
It's easier. America, easy.
Also known as Belgian blocks.
Belgian
because
blocks, building blocks. I think kids in Belgium, they don't have Legos. They actually have just rocks. They just put them together, eat them.
And there's Luis from Cycling Academy.
Yeah, so what are we doing right here, right now? Are we climbing? Where are we?
We are heading through the neighborhoods. So these neighborhoods
Are they going to your house?
They are probably like an hour north of where I live.
Okay.
I come up here and ride sometimes, not necessarily all the time because it is kind of a bummer of a ride to ride through the traffic to get to this. So, but they are going through these neighborhoods that are like these little undulating turns up and down and up and down. So these are definitely places where somebody can slip away. So you just have to keep your head on a swivel when you're in this sort of thing.
Okay, interesting. Right. So, yeah, so that's an interesting tactic of road racing that's separate from like a criterium, for example. In a road race, there are these moments of lull, so to speak, and you can sort of wander off mentally.
Yes.
And when you let your guard down mentally, that can be an opportunistic moment for a rider who's clearly strong. You know, if you've made it this far into the final selection of 15, so to speak, you have what it takes to potentially win this race. It's just a matter of if the cards fall, cards align for you, I should say. And this could be a moment for that, to see if they have that. Now, I'm actually seeing some riders tailing off here, so the pace must be high. We must have a few riders at the front driving the pace. It'll be interesting to see if it is that foundation rider one more time.
It could be. We're trying to see if that's Will Downing, and the moto just turned around and is going backwards on the course. So
we're no longer following our peloton. We're gonna go our breakaway. We're gonna go back to the peloton.
Yes.
And see what we can figure out. See what the gap is. See who else is pushing the pace in our Campagnolo GFNY World Championship event in New York.
We've got an interrupted playback, so we're not sure what's going on in the race right now.
All
it
right.
could be stretched out. There could be a lot going on. Or it could be, as my teammate Victor says in his French way, it was boring.
Boring.
He doesn't have that heavy a French accent, which is disappointing. But
But in our minds, he does today.
yes, for our intents and purposes, he does.
Yeah.
So whenever we speak in
absolutely.
that accent, we're going to have that going on.
Yeah.
So he would say, it is boring.
It is what it is, oui, bien sûr.
But we're waiting for our feeds to refresh, as you probably are if you're watching right now.
That's right.
So you can look at us and watch me sip.
That's all right. You could also reach out to us on Twitter. My handle is Gabe Lloyd. Dan's handle is NY Velocity. If you reach out to us directly, you can help us know some details of these riders that maybe you think we should know. So, for example, have you been teammates with any of these riders before? Have you raced against some of these riders before? What are some things that we should be thinking about?
Do you know Cedric?
That's right.
Are you Cedric?
Who is Cedric Haas? Is he still in our group? And is
And
in
the YouTube comments.
which we can't see.
She
But
can
you-
read them to us.
Our
Yes, we
producer
can get our.
sees them.
Yes,
All right, cool.
and be cool.
Yeah, so YouTube comments on the video that you're watching right now, and our producer will relay what you are writing to us, and we will do our best to answer your questions, or at least use your insight to help the rest of the world who is tuning in to our worldwide feed. We have 5,000 cyclists from 95 different countries here today in New York. We started at 7 a.m. at the George Washington Bridge, and we are now coming up on 10:30 in the morning. We got about an hour of racing left, Dan.
We do. They're coming in fast. We're going to see what's going on. It's a group of 20, so that lends itself to its own set of strategic problems near the end. And most of these guys know what kind of racer they are. They've come to the point in their life where they've come to terms with what they are. So either you're a sprinter, you're a climber, you're a roller, you're a breakaway guy. So they're all going to play their individual games according to their strengths.
Right.
So that's what we're going to be seeing. That's what you would be seeing out there on the course right now. You would be seeing people playing to their strengths, trying to get rid of people who can beat their strengths.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So there's
all sorts of strategy occurring here in the final few moments of our race.
Yeah, he's definitely a climber.
Which climber is that?
Lewis
Lemos.
Lemos. Yeah.
Okay.
The Israeli cycling guy. He's tiny kinda,
Tiny dude.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yes.
So we got all sorts of action happening here.
They say we're at the West Nyack aid station.
Oh wow! So we are kilometer marker 129. We have 129 kilometers into our race here today. Let's do a little shout out to our sponsors while we're waiting for our feeds to come back up. Big thanks to Campagnolo for being a premier sponsor here. All of the gear and everything that'll be on our DeRosa bikes will, of course, be Campagnolo. So big thanks to our Italian company. Big thanks to T. Edward Wines. And, of course, our Cafe de GFNY for our Colombian coffee coming out, supporting us, keeping us well hydrated and caffeinated. And for the post-party, after-party, Cliff Bar, thank you for supporting our event here today. And Elite water bottles. Everybody got one of these cool Elite custom water bottles today. You can get yourself one of these at gfny.com. And of course, thank you to SIS, that's Science and Sport. Those gels are being consumed in mass quantity here today. Thank you to those sponsors for making our fabulous event here a closed road circuit in New York and New Jersey, something that never ever happens. As Dan said at the beginning of today's broadcast, riding on 9W and getting to not have to deal with vehicles is something very special. We really appreciate all of our sponsor support that allow us to make that possible so that everybody can be a pro for a day at any of our GFNY events around the world. That is the experience that you will receive. Receiving it here in New York City is something extra special.
It is. It's very rare that you get to ride on roads like this that are completely closed to traffic. And it's this would be like if you lived here having your local training ride closed to traffic. So it's pretty extraordinary to have that sort of thing going on right now.
Absolutely. So we're working on our, there it is. So we're going to get you some race updates. We have just gone through the West Nyack aid station. It's 129 kilometers in. So Dan, you are local, you train on these routes. How close are we to the Dykeman Hill climb as far as perception? So I can look at my cue sheet and I can see that I'm like 20 Ks out. But what do you feel? What are you feeling right now when you're in West Nyack?
When you're in West Nyack, you're starting to feel that every hill is just murder.
Yeah.
That's what you're really feeling, because you're going to come back in and you're going to go up State Line. And State Line, when you've been out on a long ride, that just seems like an endless hill. Early in the ride, it's not a big hill, but at the end, it just seems like it's endless and it's just going to knock you out.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think that like a lot of these hills, everyone's feeling every pedal stroke at this point. And the riders who have been patient, in my experience, I would say have the advantage at this point in time. So if riders who have been aggressive up until this point continue to be aggressive, I would say they're having a phenomenal day. They are going toe-to-toe with Olympic caliber athletes. A lot of heavy race favorites, and we have two former winners in this group, including our last year's champion, Riccardo Pichetta. Pichetta is an Italian who is living in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, so he's getting some beautiful training in down there. and he is no stranger to any of our GFNY events. The returning champion is going toe-to-toe with other Olympian Luis Limas. Limas, again, represented Mexico in the 2016 Rio de Janeiro Games. Great to have him back. Mike Marguerite is in this group. Marguerite won here in 2015 in a solo effort. He attacked the group late. We still would like to see him hit that hard. A little different conditions here this year for Marguerite, but he has shown good form throughout the beginning of the year, including a really solid ride earlier, just a few weeks ago at our Bear Mountain Classic event. So a lot of really interesting racing and tactics going on. Looks like we got our feedback. Dan, do you have any audio or on race radio to know what's the update?
We do.
on?
We've got this group of 5, and we do have Luis Lemos of Israeli Cycling Academy, Kevin Bouchard Hall, which is a great call from you. And we do have the Jerusalem winner, which is Peros.
Okay.
And we've got about a group of 5 out there.
So
it is getting serious out there.
great. So we are seeing Kevin Bouchard Hall. He has made that selection of 5 finalists. I pinpointed him earlier today as an outside threat. He is making me look real smart right now, so I appreciate that. We also are seeing our professional Olympic athletes making the selection, and the GFNY Jerusalem winner, I believe.
Jurgen Mariels, the Belgian.
Jurgen Mariels has made the selection as well. So these riders that we were speaking about who have potential, even though they're outside threats, they are now very much a factor in our final few kilometers of racing. And this is where we bring home the bacon. Sometimes people say, you know, you really have to stay on those wheels and pay attention and not let your inattention get the better of you, and that includes nutrition. You better be drinking, you better be eating, and coming out and staying safe and staying upright, because it looks like we actually still have some wet roads out there.
This is the worst time to get a hunger knock in this race.
Yeah.
You're definitely going to want to fill up with that, whatever you have. Eat whatever you can.
Absolutely, because
If you have to chew a glove and eat that, go ahead.
do it.
Because it's going to get desperate now.
Yeah, I mean,
You need to have the calories in the motor right now.
if you're feeling hungry at this point in time, you're already bonked. You know, that's the reality of cycling, is that once you feel that hunger pang, you're already done. Your game is over. You need to stay on top of your nutrition for as best you can, taking those SIS gels or eating some Cliff Bars. Up until this point, that's the best way of staying on top of your nutrition, so that you can continue to be competitive and continue to be a factor in the decisive moments. Seems like Kevin Bouchard Hall, Jurgen Morels, Luis Limas. Did Marguerite make that selection?
I did not see Mike Marguerite. We had the feed on for about 30 seconds, and I didn't see who was in there. I know there's a group of about 5.
Okay.
So that would be the state of play on the road right now.
Great. So 5 riders have separated themselves from what was 12. So again, another replay of tactics and decision making from the previous editions of the Campagnolo GFNY World Championship events from years prior. We now have 17 events worldwide, and this is the premier stop on our worldwide tour.
You could definitely have something going on today with Kevin Bouchard Hall, because I don't think that anybody in this break necessarily knows who he is.
Yeah.
These are all former champions who have ridden this race around the world, have ridden in Jerusalem, and you know, you have Lemos from the Israeli cycling squad. Kevin Bouchard Hall could be a real dark horse. They don't know who he is. He could just be able to get away. They don't know that he would be able to hold it or not.
Sure, and even if Bouchard Hall has participated in a GFNY event in years prior, he has not gotten a result. So this is the first time that we've seen him really at the sharp end of the stick at the very critical moments. Again, winning that race in Vermont, the Rasputas race last week, shows a lot of tremendous form, but a very different ride as well. A gravel event, a little bit more of a long power style of ride versus a road race where you maybe need a sharper type of power output. We'll see if that is true or not, honestly. You know, it is a bike race. Anything can happen. Some guys can be having a bad day. A bad day for Limas could still be a better day than most out here.
It's true.
So we'll see.
And you're definitely not going to... Rapatista is not something you win by accident.
Right.
It really isn't. It's something that people are gunning for. It's a big race. It's important. People love to win that kind of stuff. And Vermont, you know, you just find people from Vermont that can just race bikes. They come out of the woods. They're like another Sasquatch type situation. Who are these guys? I don't know. They're really strong. He left at mile 2. He was gone all day. So
wow.
It's really one of those type of circumstances.
Were you at that event, Dan?
No, I wasn't. No.
But you know it.
I know of it. I didn't think he didn't leave at mile 2. I have no idea how it went down. So I'm just making stuff up. But I do know from past experience that there's all these New England racers who come down here that we don't necessarily know.
Gotcha.
And there are some like Vermont racers who will do the furry leg camouflage and then get away.
Absolutely.
They will do that because they're sneaky.
Tricky.
Yeah, they're sneaky New England racers like that.
Trust those guys.
We're not getting any updates right now, but we are working on it.
I'll tell you what, New England knows how to tweet, though. I'll tell you that much.
Are they after you?
A little bit.
Good.
It's cool.
That's what you need.
It's all good. So we're getting our feeds back up. There it is.
We have a feed up. We have a group of, looks like 5.
Okay.
Definitely Luis Lemos.
Because you can tell, because he got that blue rear panel on his shorts.
Yes. And these racers at the front do have the chance to go back to the lead car and get water from the car, so that is an advantage.
Wow, that is
Yeah,
pro.
they do get fed along the road, so it's, when they say be a pro for the day, if you get out in the lead group, it's much like that.
Yeah, wow.
It's not a sticky bottle. It's not as going to be as sticky as you want it to be, but it's going to be, it's going to be definitely a bottle that you can have in a team car.
Yeah, but we definitely have a group of 5 on the road, and from all different nationalities, Belgian, Mexican, American, and we'll see who else we have in this mix. But really exciting to see the international side of this event coming to the forefront. Really great to see that the representation of this event, this marathon style cycling event, is being represented in our final selection, not being dominated by 1 or 2 countries. So Dykeman Hill, Dan, that I think is going to be really interesting, but we've got another mile marker coming up. It looks like Sparkill maybe is decisive. At least it's made the list as far as we can see. So we'll see if Sparkill becomes an important moment.
It is going to be an important moment. If you're watching from the lead car, we have my favorite Moto Marshall on the Vespa scooter in the bright yellow. That man is a stalwart of the cycling scene. He marshals for everything. Absolutely awesome. Sometimes he even has some Dunkin' Donuts down at his feet down there. I don't know if he's carrying donuts today. Some of these guys would really wish for a donut right now. But we are rolling back in. So we are coming up around Route 45. So I'm assuming we're at about kilometer 112. So it's coming. This is definitely a detente period. This group has established itself, and they're just going to start rotating through. So they're just winnowing down, getting rid of guys, and then they're just going to hold this pace for a while, and then they're going to see what goes on as they go through. This looks like Pachetta in the black shorts at the back.
Right,
that is the Italian winner from
Pachetta.
last year, so he has probably made the break.
Wow, that's great.
So he's able to hang in there.
So we have Mexico, Italy, Belgium, and America. 4 out of the 5 selections here in our breakaway. Truly international breakaway occurring here. I was noticing while you're speaking, Dan, that Lemus, he's got that blue rear panel. So if you're watching the feed that Dan is watching, he's looking really comfortable. He's sitting up. He was like exchanging words and exchanging bottles with the moto official that Dan was speaking of as well. When a rider is that composed at this point in the race, they've got a lot of potential to win. Other riders maybe are more further in the box and they're just concentrating on staying in the group. They're concentrating to the point where they're not relaxed. And Lemus looks relaxed to me. I think he could really be one to watch.
Yes, and we do have Mike Marguerite in this group also.
Great.
So he is going to be the tall rider that has the Weather Underground on the back panel of his shorts. So this is an all-star pack right now.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 former winners in this group, and of course Lemus, he is not one here in New York, but he has one in Cozumel, so he really does know how to win a GFNY level event, an event where you are always racing international riders that maybe you don't know as well. Having the experience to know how to win from a group like this can really play to your advantage. So let's see how this plays out here. Now we're going up here, we're just seeing some rolling hills of New Jersey. We're not yet to any of our final rated climbs.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out where they're at on the course. We did have some dropouts, so locating them on the course right now is going to be a challenge. So they are definitely out there. They're in an undulating area. Any of these climbs can suddenly be the climb that decides the race.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, so we've got Spark Hill at 137 kilometers, and we've got Henry Hudson Drive at 145 kilometers, and then we've got the Dykeman Hill at 155. So those 3 moments can be really important. And then Dykeman Hill, it's really only about 6 Ks from the finish. So, you know, if you can hit that climb hard and be comfortable, then you can most certainly be on the top step here at the Campagnolo GFNY World Championship event here in New York City. Thank you all for tuning in here today, by the way. Again, my name is Gabe Lloyd. I'm joined here by Dan Schmaltz, and we are very thrilled to be here. We've had a great day of racing. We started on the George Washington Bridge at 7 o'clock this morning. We are coming up right now at 10:45 in the morning. That means we are only about 25 to 30 minutes from the conclusion of our 100-mile premier event. We actually have 2 distances available for riders here today. A 50-mile ride that again starts in the George Washington Bridge lower level, and that does conclude at the halfway point, which is Bear Mountain. So every rider here today gets to climb up to Bear Mountain. The other riders are doing the 100-mile route, so the GFNY 100. They are riding themselves back all the way to Fort Lee, New Jersey, which is where Dan and I are sitting right now and have been sitting all morning, commentating and looking at our feeds being fed to us live from lead and follow vehicles. If you are tuning in at gfny.com, thank you for joining us. If you're on YouTube, you can feel free to leave a comment on the stream, and our producer will relay that message to us. If you know anybody in here or have any questions for us, don't hesitate to ask. We'd love to know what you're thinking. We'd also love to know where you're from. If you're from around the world, if you're in Europe, South America, the Caribbean, or even Asia, please let us know. We'd love to know who we are talking to and how far our Campagnolo GFNY broadcast is reaching, as it helps us represent your countries well in our broadcast.
Plug it again.
All right.
Okay.
So,
Go ahead, Gabe.
So-
I'm still trying to figure out who the 5. We have 5 riders at the front. We knew it's Mike Marguerite, Luis Lemos. We have Pachetta, who won last year, so that we do know that those 3 are there. And we do have the Belgian, who is at the front of the race. And we have Kevin Brochard Hall. So we have Jürgen Moriels. So that seems like race over.
yeah, I would say that the winner will probably come from this group of 5. Now, we have not had eyes on the chase group. Maybe, you know, we have some strong chasers who, for whatever reason, are having a resurgence, but I would agree with Dan that at this point in time, the likelihood of the winner coming from this group of 5 is very strong. We
Yes.
have 2 former winners. We've got the Belgian Jürgen Moriels. We have American Kevin Bouchard Hall in here, and Mexican Luis Lemos, and American Mike Marguerite. Very strong contingency. Give us a comment on our YouTube channel here to let us know what you think the winner is going to be. We'd love to have some race predictions coming in on YouTube comments. Those comments are on either side of the screen you're watching right now. Click in there, give us some feedback, and we will
respond.
We will respond.
You feel free to heckle us. We're not proud. Okay, so
Not at
now
all.
we're hopefully getting some live pictures again. I'm seeing a feed, but it is a frozen picture, and it is of 2 racers of unknown origin. We have 2 guys in green jerseys, so that's not very helpful.
That's our placeholder. That's
Yes.
okay. So let's think about the fact that we're probably approaching our Spark Hill moment in our race. The Spark Hill climb is 137 kilometers into our event. That means that we are into the final few moments here.
That is coming down to the last 40K. All right, we've got
Right.
some live moto pictures.
Okay.
And we are going to try to figure out who it is. We are going to divine who we are.
I'm seeing some
Watching.
vehicles.
I'm seeing vehicles on the road. Hopefully that is not the moto that's taking the race into this live traffic with automobiles.
That's right. So all of our GFNY Races are closed courses. That is one of the most special things that you can have as a cyclist. If you ever get to compete in an event that has closed roads, you will love it. So check out GFNY.com for the next event near you. There are 17 worldwide events this year. New York City just happens to be the premier stop and the World Championship event. But if you would like to compete in this race next year, starting from the front, check out GFNY.com. You can do a local regional race. If you do well in that race, you will be in the starting front selection for our championship event here in New York City.
And they will bring you to New York City if you do one of the other ones. I do think that Jürgen Morels, because he won Jerusalem, was able to come to this race and was brought to this race by GFNY.
Right. I mean, when they say you're treated like a pro, that is through and through. So if you are a champion of a GFNY event, you will be treated like a pro. We will get you here because we want to represent the best of the best here at our World Championship event. So jump online to GFNY.com and check out a race near you, or take a vacation somewhere exotic and see if you can test your legs on that vacation and get yourself a starting spot here in New York next year.
The Costa Rica option sounds great to me.
Yeah.
I would love to see the Costa Rican option. There's
Yeah.
like everywhere. Poland, Germany, Colombia, Indonesia.
Yeah.
They are everywhere. There will soon be GFNY 152. Are there 152 countries in the world? We're getting
Yes,
close.
We're getting close.
It's getting close.
Worldwide dominance.
Yes,
Dan's going to be the first winner of GFNY Antarctica
it's true.
coming up.
I have
Really
been able to dominate most penguins. We'll find out whether it's going to be still true. But
Still true.
usually against an Aleutian
Always a
penguin,
chance.
I have a big chance because they just
Absolutely.
don't have the leg speed.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
Their bike fit is really bizarre. You know, Dan has that advantage there, leverage with his legs. So
I do.
Looking forward to seeing Dan stand on the top step of Antarctica's edition in the near future.
Yes, I dominate the penguins. Let's just say that and make an official prediction. So we do have five riders off the front. We are waiting for the moto to catch up to them.
Okay.
It looks like the moto is running through traffic and he's trying to get back to where the riders are
The
out
moto's
on the
taking a
course.
shortcut at some point, and that's fine. We should note, too, we got a few interesting age group categories happening here today. So while we've only been talking about the front selection of this race, remember that there are age group categories occurring here today. Riders from around the world who maybe aren't going to compete for the top step like Dan and I are speaking about. They are still in contention for a championship-style result. We have age groups broken into many different categories.
The top category is 75 plus, so if you are over 75 years old, first off, congratulations. Second off, get on your bike, come on out. You never know. And the thing about the age group racing is that you don't know how old someone is that's next to you, because they could be 50, they could be 60, they could be 32. You could win your age group and not know until all of the balls have dropped, sort of from the bingo poll. So it's you never know. You could be lucky. There's also a team competition with the top 4 from each team counting, and there's a him and her.
I love the him and her, Dan, because that is a combination of your age, and the him and her moments, combination teams are really amazing because you are allowed to assist your teammate. You can push them uphill if they need that push. That is allowed in the rule book here. I found that really interesting.
I would love to be pushed.
Yes. So,
They do have a him and her category for under 90, but I would like to come back and win the over 90.
Yeah.
Let's bring that. Let's do that.
I would love to see
Right?
that him and her over 90 champion here today. I can't wait to see who that's
My
going
first
to
goal
be.
is to survive to 90.
That's right.
Second goal, win the him and her over 90.
Yeah.
So,
One thing at a time.
yes. So if you can talk your other half into doing the over 90
That's
together,
right.
or whoever you choose to be your partner, bring it.
Bring it on.
All right, we are searching for feeds out here. There is weather, there is all sort of challenges that are going on. We are watching this moto driver just kill it. He's on 9W, obviously. He's
Okay.
coming up to where he would come to the state line climb, which is really coming to the last 120-ish K of this race.
Right, so state line climb, that is on our start sheet as Dykeman Hill, I believe. Is that correct, Dan?
That's Dykeman Hill? I will say sure.
I think that is the situation on hand because of being 155 in from a 6Ks from this point where we're sitting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put that as state line hill. So the locals will call the final climb state line because you're actually coming up from leaving New York, coming back into New Jersey by the Columbia Observatory out there. So you come up that. I found that a really great opportunity for intervals and whatnot when I was living here in New York City. But that is very deep into our competition. It's 155 Ks. It is 96.5 Ks. And in fact, Dan, we are starting to see motorcycles and some of our caravan start to make their way in. So we are definitely close. This moto is passing traffic. That is great
blasting
to
through
see.
traffic.
He is showing us how it's done here, and we're
He
gonna
is getting through traffic, getting to where we can find out where we're at and
That's
who is
right.
on the road. It's going to be good.
It's going to be very good here because we are going to see really hard efforts being put in by all the riders at the front of this race. They are definitely through Spark Hill at this point. If we are starting to see caravan activity here in Fort Lee, New Jersey, where Dan and I have been broadcasting since 7 a.m., but we are at 10:55, so they've actually increased their pace if in fact they are coming into the final few Ks of our feature event.
Yes. The Dykeman climb is going to be near the end. It's where you basically come out of River Road and you come up onto East Palisades Avenue.
Okay.
That's the forbidden climb, as we were talking about before.
Great.
So that will be coming up Dykeman Street. That's the last gasp. If you want to drop somebody, that's where you're going to try to do it. If
Absolutely.
you don't get it done there, then there could be cat and mouse near the end.
Okay.
So it is definitely going to be your last decisive time to be able to get rid of that.
Sure, and maybe that's in a place where Mike Marguerite attacked a few years ago to take his solo win over his fellow competitors, and maybe he will try that tactic again. But again, I really like Lemus for this win. I think Bouchard Hall is an outside favorite because he's won Rasputas last week. So
yeah, he's carrying some good form, so that's a great indicator.
Really good form right now. But Lemus looked so comfortable earlier when we had our feed up and live because he was sitting up, he was exchanging words and bottles with our moto officials. So to me, he looked really composed, really comfortable out there, and that's a really good indication of mental as well as physical fortitude at this point in the race.
Yeah, and my guy Victor seems to be in the second group, so the Fort Lee police car is safe. I will not be rioting if he wins this race. He could come back. You never know. It's possible.
Make a strong resurgence here.
It could be. It could be a strong resurgence. You never know, but it seems like it's going to come from this top 5, this break of 5.
Right.
So we will see what's going on here. It looks like we've got a slight headwind at the finish here. So that always means if it's going to be a 5-up sprint, the later you go, the better off you are.
That's right.
Okay, and we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Right.